Good morning, everybody. It is week 9. If you can see, if you can read that. If you're just listening, in and not watching, that's all right, because we're going to help you out either way. With me, as always, is Dylan. We're kind of switching up things a little bit around here. We're going to be doing the ranking segment first, and then jumping into the betting segment, and then what you guys come for, the start sit segment. So make sure you get your questions in beforehand before we get to those, and then we'll answer them first. But in the meantime, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to know when we're coming on live every Sunday, hit that bell for notifications. What's up, Albert? Appreciate you being the first one in our stream.
I was going to say, Albert just needs to put in first every single.
He's got the bell.
The guy in
awesome.
the chat group, or the responses that just puts like first. That's Albert. That's like
he's definitely an example.
It's awesome.
He's the example of somebody that's got the bell clicked on YouTube for notifications, knowing when we're going live every time. Mm-hmm. So love you, Albert. But yeah, and make sure you go to fantasysixpack.net/plans. Still get in on the Discord. There's still half a season left here, guys. And of course, the best part about it is the DFS, in my opinion, where Dave Eddy, Chris Robbin, Keith Flemming, Alan helps out with that as well with his betting segment. They can win you your money back for the first month of the subscription fee, just like that. I mean, I won $50 just listening to Dave Eddy's cash pool last week. So it's worth it. Get in there. There's still plenty of time, and they do playoffs for you, so you got a chance to make money there. But let's jump right into it, Dylan, here, and get into the ranking segment. Let's get that sneak peek of Joe's Week 9 rankings here.
All right, Joe, looking at the quarterback position, man, I'm going to throw Geno Smith at you. You like him a little bit more this week than ECR. You have him as your quarterback 11 in top 12 territory. ECR quarterback 14. He's taking on the Rams in a divisional matchup here. So what's giving you a little bit of an excitement about being able to play Geno Smith as your QB1 this week?
I mean, I feel like the Seahawks and the Rams usually have pretty competitive games here. So, you got to like that. Last week was a bad week for Seattle. So, those happen. Got to throw that out the window. I think recency bias is sort of pushing some people back down on Geno. It's really easy to do that with Geno. I feel like everybody's trying to find reasons not to play Geno and not trust him. And when he's got his bad week, right, that's what happens. Now, he's not going to have DK. Again, it sounds like this week, so that's a bummer. But he's still chucking this ball around quite a bit. So you've got to like that. And I mean, I'm just gonna go back to the well here. It's not like the Rams defense is like a juggernaut or anything, so they can be had.
Yeah, no, I'm all right with the call, Joe. There's just the thing that makes me nervous, and you alluded to it, is just him missing his best playmaker in DK, but he can still get it done. He's got Tyler Lockett, he's got JSN, he's got Walker, Charbonnet out of the backfield. So I'm definitely okay with you having him in your top 12 here still. Looking at the running back position now, and first I want to mention Mr. Devon Achane from the Dolphins. The Dolphins are getting the Bills, who are a pretty good run defense, and I'm assuming that's probably a little bit of your argument here. ECR still has him as RB11. Joe, you like him less at RB16, outside of RB1 territory this week. What's giving you a little bit of pause here on Devon Achane?
I don't like you, but go ahead.
I like him a lot, right? So don't get me wrong. Like, I think he's easily startable. Most weeks he's going to be in that RB1 conversation. You're still starting him. There's just a little hesitation because, I mean, let's be real. The Bills have the Dolphins number, man. For whatever reason, they just crush them. And there is still the Mostert factor here. If you look back at the usage article that I wrote, I dove into this backfield now that Tua is returned. They split the backfield. Like, it was really the only thing Achane gets extra is passing work. And that's fine. And that's awesome. So PPR, he's going to be a little bit higher up, of course. He's got to get that he's got to get that big home run. He's got to get that big home run play. to kind of score, it feels like, or, catch the ball or run the ball in from like the 20, 15. Because when they get within the goal line, within the 5, those touches go to Mostert. So that's a worry when you're playing Achane. So the projections and the rankings are going to be a little conservative with him because of all of those factors. But man, I mean, any given week he could be like RB2, man, because he's just got that playmaking ability. It's kind of like Gibbs, man. Gibbs is like that same type of thing, to where he's dealing with Montgomery, and I would say Montgomery's better than Mostert at this point, but it's kind of like that same thing where like it's always hard to project Gibbs to be in the top 5. But he's got that potential every single week, and so does Achane.
That kind of leads me into my next group here, Joe. Or Mike, go ahead here. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, can I interest you in a matchup where the Bills defense are allowing the most receptions to running backs, which is exactly what Achane needs for an explosion?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking, and you're right. So like I'm looking at the point against versus running backs here, and Buffalo's top 3 for PPR formats here. So it is a nice matchup here. It's just that it's that touchdown ability, man. Like you just don't. It's hard to project touchdowns for Achane over some of these other guys, and unless you really think Achane is going to get like 6-7 catches, which is very possible, it's hard to put him over top of some of these other guys who are realistically like the RB1, like workhorse for their team, more so than Achane, and not going against a team who just literally has their number. I mean, like Buffalo does not allow. Does not lose to the Dolphins, it feels like.
Yeah,
not lately.
It's a small sample size, but in the 3 games that Tua has been healthy and finished the game with Achane, he has had 20 receptions in those 3 games. So it is very possible for him to have another 6 reception week, in my opinion.
But yeah, staying with the running backs, Joe, you're kind of leading me into the next guys I wanted to talk to you about, and it's a little bit of a 2-for-1, and that's the Lions backfield here. ECR still has Jahmyr Gibbs as RB8. You actually have him 10 spots lower, Joe, at RB18. You kind of already talked about him there, but you also have David Montgomery, who feels like he gets into the end zone every week. You have him as RB27 this week against the Packers while he's ECR 23. What are your thoughts here in this matchup? And apparently I checked the weather a little bit. It's supposed to be a rainy day in Green Bay today, so that could make for interesting game flow there.
Yeah. Again, this one's just projections sort of to lead you in that way. Like I just said, it's hard to project these guys for these like monster games. Weather could play a factor, could keep it sloppy, could keep offenses off the field for both of these teams, or just lead to like just pound the ball for both of these guys. Divisional game, those are always tough. With these NFC North teams, they like, so, I mean, it's one of these, like, these are the early rankings. This is just me just kind of taking the numbers, and, I put a little bit of my gut feel into it, but I'm going to be diving into them more after this show, and we'll see. Like, I could see some of these guys moving up a little bit, but as of right now, I'll be real. Like the Packers run defense is pretty solid. So
it's been pretty good. The defense as a whole has been much better with Jeff Hafley for sure.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Mixon and Barkley, they've kind of shut down some of these top running backs. I mean, Kyron scored 15 points.
That's what he
Aaron
does.
Jones, 15 points. I mean, Jonathan Taylor was held to 14. Those are okay days, but they're top 15 days, not top 10 days.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. We could go ahead and move on to the wide receiver position. And this one's interesting. Definitely want to get your thoughts here. Joe Flacco under center for the Colts now, Joe. You have Michael Pittman Jr., a borderline wide receiver 1 at wide receiver 13. ECR still has him at 22. I don't know if all the rankers may not have had all their stuff in yet. I don't know, maybe. But what are your thoughts here, Joe, with Michael Pittman and Joe Flacco? It seems like wheels up for you here for him?
I mean, like any time we're not having Anthony Richardson pass the ball in that offense and we get Flacco, you have to give a big boost to the pass catchers there. This is I like Pittman a lot, but man, this is probably one of the more nerve-wracking rankings I've got. Like, the numbers push me in this direction. But like Pittman also, I mean, he still has not really been awesome even with Flacco. It's been Josh Downs. Mm-hmm. And so, you kind of want to like just take the gut feel and say, no, just flip the two. But honestly, like I've got Josh Downs higher. So like I love both of these guys in reality. So I mean, I'm looking at it, and I mean right now, of course, I think I'm looking at my half PPR rankings. I know we're talking about full, but as of right now, like I'm looking at my half, and I've got Pittman right above like McLaurin and Reed and Lockett and Flowers. I mean, like, yeah,
I get it.
It's fair. Like McLaurin, maybe I could see going above him. Reed's been bad the last couple of weeks. Lockett's totally hit or miss. Flowers now is having to deal with it. I know Deontay Johnson reports came out this morning that he's only going to play like 15 to 20% of the snaps, but you feel like it could be one of those things like he's on the field for 20% of the snaps and like gets a target in like 3/4 of them just because they're trying to get integrate him into that offense. And like, that's just going to eat away from Flowers, maybe just that much. Plus, this is a super run heavy offense. Like that's what they want to do. So like, there's just, I mean, it's a lot of like question marks there. So yeah, I mean, Pittman with Flacco there. Let's go.
All right. I like to hear that.
My son's saying, let's go.
Love it. Love it here. Looking at another guy, Joe, the wide receiver 2 in Philadelphia, Devonta Smith. You don't have him as a wide receiver 2 this week. You have him as wide receiver 26. Actually, the Eagles are taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. What are your thoughts here on Devonta Smith? ECR has him at wide receiver 16, so that's a 10-spot difference here.
So it's interesting. You get me the good ones today. Yeah, you really are, man. These are good questions. Yeah, man. With Devonta Smith, like
he's had some clunkers, man. So I get it. I get it a little bit.
I mean, and I know he's going against Jacksonville, but like, how easily could you see this team, the Eagles, just torch them early?
Yeah.
Hurts gets in, Saquon gets in, maybe A.J. Brown gets a little bit of the action, and then Devonta Smith is left out in the cold, and then they get up big and they don't have to pass the ball anymore, and so they're just leaning on this run game. I mean, Jacksonville's like they could easily get beat by 30, 35 points in this game, in my opinion. Like they're bad. It's that kind of bad game. So it's that's what worries me with Smith. And I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, just the volume has been like up and down. The first 3 games were awesome. Then he got hurt. Then the bye week, 4, 2, and then last week was 7 targets. Last week was solid, but it's very up and down with Smith. And so 2025, 27, I guess, is right around where I'm comfortable putting him.
No, and that's fair, Joe. Like the pass attempts haven't always been there for Jalen Hurts either. They want to run the ball. Like Saquon demands touches in this offense. So he's going to get his 15 to 20 touches every week. And like we saw Jalen Hurts, I want to say a couple weeks ago, maybe it was even last week, he threw the ball like 14 times one game. Like that's not going to bode well for any wide receiver 2s in any offense. So I'm with you to an extent there, man. I get it for sure. Switch it over to everyone's favorite position, the tight end position. Joe, it looks like for this week, we got Mr. Cole Kmet sneaking in your top 12 at tight end 11. ECR's a little bit down on him. ECR 16 on the week. What's giving you confidence in being able to put Cole Kmet in streaming territory this week against the Arizona Cardinals?
Uh,
Caleb Williams is going to throw for more than 35 yards in 3 quarters against this defense.
I mean,
hopefully,
I think it's a little bit of the defense. I mean, the Cardinals, they're kind of middle of the road against tight ends, but like that's again, I said that. I think I said this, Mike, if you recall, on the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour this week. Looking at fantasy points against for tight ends is hard. Like I trust it a little more against running backs, and I trust it a little more against receivers, right? Because every team's got at least a good running back and a good receiver for the most part, right? Or a couple. Quarterbacks kind of the same as well. Tight ends, man, it really depends on who you faced. And so you're looking at who the Cardinals have faced here. It's been, Buffalo, and that first game, like they just didn't use the tight end. Played the Rams, they don't have the tight ends. Laporta and the Detroit Lions, like they're not using him this year. Ertz. Then they played Kittle, allowed some good points against Kittle. Then Green Bay, like whatever. That was that might have been a Malik Willis game still. The Chargers, they don't even pass the ball very much, but Smart did pretty, or Will Disley torched them, right?
Yeah, he did.
And then they played Miami, who don't use our tight end. So like they haven't really faced a good tight end that is used a lot. And so the points against for that defense, it's really hard to rely on. So I don't really think the Cardinals defense is anything great. We do know that Caleb Williams likes Cole Kmet, so I believe they will try to get him more involved here this week. And I just think we're gonna have a better game from Caleb Williams this week than we saw last week. That was such a weird, it was a bad game, honestly, for both him and Jaden Daniels. It was just worse for Caleb Williams from a fantasy standpoint. Maybe coming off the bye week, it was just like, I don't know, maybe rusty again. I usually come off the bye week and you're hot, but it was kind of weird.
Don't get me started on Bears coaching, man. I'd rather not talk about that. Coming off the bye, and you have 30 passing yards.
You should blame that turd corner or safety or whatever it is that was like pumping up the crowd or trying to
Tyree Stevenson,
and then comes in and hands the ball to a platter, literally. Yep. Noah Brown in the backfield. Like, you're an idiot. You should be fired.
Yeah. He did get benched, which is pretty funny.
Dude, I look, I'm not a huge McAfee fan, but that little clip of him from his radio show where he's like, if there's a movie about an a-hole, this guy would be in the lead, like the opening credits. Like, dude,
100%. I've never seen anything like that, man. Yeah,
I was like, he run like he's not even paying attention, just tries to come over and make like a play and like made the wrong play. Like, good job, dude. Like, you're an idiot.
While your head coach has 3 timeouts in his back pocket, but that's besides the point, man. Yeah,
I mean, like, I don't know, you're gonna use a timeout against a Hail Mary play, like whatever. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you, Joe.
That play's gonna happen regardless. Like, okay, guys, we've practiced this. Let's go do it. It's I mean, it's just a little bit of like, he sees a decent amount of volume. Tight end sucks. Maybe we're getting a little bit better. National Tight End Day gave us a little bit of hope. Maybe we get all that hope stomped on today. And go back to the other thing. I wrote about some of the stats in the usage article too, just how like drastically different it was from weeks 1 through 7 average to week 8. It was just crazy, the boost in stats we saw from the tight end. But I mean, you're looking at the guys ranked below him, and sure, you're looking at the guy ranked ahead of him. I love all the guys ranked ahead of him. All the guys ranked behind him, outside of maybe Mark Andrews, because he's seeing more touchdowns now. That would be the only guy that I would potentially throw back up front of him. But Kmet sees way more volume, in my opinion, so I trust him more.
All right, and we trust you here, Joe, at the Fantasy Six Pack, especially when you're number 2 in the rankings. But number 1, like you said, number 1 in all of our hearts.
Like I said, I didn't.
I think that was you. Tweet. No, you didn't. It was tweet.
I'm gonna write my own tweet.
I wouldn't put it past you.
I hardly ever get on the Fantasy Six Pack Twitter. That's either you or Keith, man.
That is definitely Keith then, because that one wasn't me.
All right.
We appreciate it as always, though, Joe. Tell everybody what you got going on and where they can find it before you leave.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say. You guys already say it all. FantasySixPack.net, where you can find it. Jump in, become an All Access member. You're going to get access to those rankings, up to date, pretty much right up until kickoff, and that's where you got to find them, because they unless you can make your lineup decisions within 2 minutes from the Fantasy Pros submission I make, you're not going to get them there. So I put them in there for the contest, and that's pretty much it. So come over to our site and grab them and win your leagues.
Yeah, I've used them. I'm always on, and it'll tell me it's updated like pretty much the day before or the day of when I'm checking them. So he's always on that, guys. But thank you, Joe. All right, we'll let you go, and hopefully you have another good week in the rankings contest. Take care, man.
Trying to get that number 1 spot. See you guys.
Keep it going. Peace. All right, now we're gonna bring on Alan for his best bets of the week. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great.
I appreciate the professionalism, because I know you're about to tell us how your morning went. So just go right into it.
In the press box too. Love to see it.
Yeah. Aside from like getting in like 55 minutes late, I get upstairs. I'm like, I got 10 minutes. I try to grab something to eat real quick, and I go to the first line I see with like food. Get this huge plate of food, because I'm like, I'm going to eat, do all my work, and just I'm probably not going to get back up until like halftime. And I sit down, and I'm like, why is everybody looking at me like that? And so I go to like start eating, and I looked at the sign, and it says Fox Sports. I work for ESPN. I was like, oh, I'm in the wrong line. and I was gonna like throw the food away, but I looked at what ESPN was serving, and I was like, I'm Fox today, bro. I'm just gonna be Fox.
That's incredible, man. That is so awesome.
I love it.
Nobody wanted to say anything to me. I guess because I'm a big guy, but I worked out from this side. Like even the people like serving me the food was just like everybody was looking at me weird. I was like, what is wrong with people? I thought it was a New York thing.
They were intimidated by your confidence.
No, I was
just sheer confidence, like no idea. Just thought this is my food.
Man on a mission for some food, man. Let's see. So sneaky bet today. A bet kind of like the Packers money line. Probably not the best spot to play them, but like the weather's kind of iffy. I think it's rainy. It's temperatures like low 50s, I think. And I know Jared Goff is playing out of his mind right now, and I'm like the biggest Jared Goff like detractor. But at some point, he's got to come back to earth. We still haven't seen Aiden Hutchinson's injury really hurt this team. I think it'll show up in a game like this. The longer we get into the season, the longer they play without addressing the fact that they don't have their top edge rusher, I think the more it becomes kind of a liability. And the Packers done pretty well scoring at home. I go back to the game where they were down like 21-0 on the Vikings. And I was like, well, they came back pretty quickly. They look like they've got good chemistry. The running game is getting better, I think. And if the Packers were favorite, I wouldn't play it because I hate them as favorites, but they always find a way to win or make games competitive. And getting 2.5 in this spot here, I actually think I might have saw it at 3 earlier in the week when I was back and forth on it. I think it's of the week, I would say it's probably the upset I'm most confident in, and it's not really an upset per se, but it's like, to me, the value play when you factor in the risk and the reward. I think that's one of the better plays this week. If you bet the spread, don't bet the 2.5. I did a lengthy explanation of this on my radio show the other day, but I think I've seen, off the top of my head, I know at least 5 times I've seen 2.5 on a divisional game this year. And the one that I actually bet was the Texans week 1 against the Colts, and that landed on 2. You're not going to get that often. And if you see 2.5, if you feel that good about it, just bet the money line, because you're likely going to lose on the 2.5 anyway. but the probability if you win an outright on a money line bet pays out more than that one-off chance that you get the 2, you know? So it's like risk reward type thing. I'm going to stay with the Browns this week. I know a lot of people are probably like, oh, James had his good game. That's it. I think the Browns have talent. Like, I saw them play in person. They're not world beaters, but they're a good team. They just have bad quarterback play, like really bad quarterback play. Jameis at least gives them a chance, you know? And I said it when they played Washington. I said every week that they had Deshaun Watson. If they could score 20, they'd probably have more wins. But they just couldn't get to 20. With Jameis, they have the ability to actually put points on the board. Defense is still well above average. I think the best storyline of that game is Joe Alt versus Myles Garrett. And I'm hoping we get to see a lot of that. But I think with the physical style that the Chargers play, it plays into the hands of the Browns, I think. And so I was okay with taking that. I think they were plus 1.5. Again, I just did a money line bet on that one. And then the Cardinals, I'm not gonna lie, I was on the Bears originally, and then the line flipped. And so I went back and looked at the line switching. It looked like it changed right after the end of the Commanders-Bears game. So I was like, it's kind of an overreaction on the Bears losing in the last second, and kind of an overreaction on the Cardinals coming back on the Dolphins a little. But having seen the Bears play, they didn't look good. Like they really should have got blown out. They gave up 481 yards. The Commanders struggled in the red zone. I think that was more self-inflicted than the Bears actually doing anything. And what really bothered me was that you're coming off a bye week and you look like you didn't get coached at all. Like it was just a poor game plan, poor execution. Cardinals riding high right now. They've got the playmakers to keep up. They've got the playmakers to negate the strengths of the Bears defense. And then the Bears offense still isn't where it should be, if that makes sense. So I thought that, you know, with the line being flipped, I think people kind of caught wind of how the Bears looked more so than anything else. And I kind of bought into it. I hate to say like sharps and stuff like that, because I don't know where they're really putting their money at in a situation like that. Like that line was pretty tight. Like I think the money's like 53 to 47%. Like what are we talking about with sharps? I think it's pretty split down the middle. So for me, it was just I would rather go with the team I think can game plan better, and that's the Cardinals.
I mean, Bears are banged up defensively too. Still no Jaquan Brisker, their starting strong safety. Kyler Gordon's banged up as well. They had to bench Tyreek Stevenson for being a knucklehead on the last Hail Mary, so they're on their third corner or their fourth corners starting opposite of Jalen Johnson. So I don't hate the call, Alan. And like you said, Arizona's feeling pretty good about themselves right now, and they're probably better coached. Matt Eberflus, as a Bears fan, man, he is he's something. He's a great defensive mind for the most part, but as a head coach, he does some tough stuff for sure.
Yeah, he does a lot of dumb stuff. And everybody keeps talking about that handoff to the lineman. I'm like, dude, they don't have timeouts. You didn't guard the sidelines. Like, I know the Bears scouted Jaden Daniels to some extent, right? Like they know that he could throw the ball at least 65 yards down the field. So why would you give him the yardage that allows him to even be in a position to make a play like that? That's what bothered me.
And then Allen, he doubled down on it and said it didn't matter.
That's what bothers me is he
said that play didn't matter.
He doesn't admit he made a mistake. Just admit it. We're all human. It happens.
Yep.
Yeah. He's absolutely crazy if he thinks that didn't matter. Maybe we were watching the wrong game. But
right.
I know my thought process before that completion, my thought process during the completion, and then my thought process when he was dancing around and heaving it down the field. The whole time I'm just like, what is going on? So, and there's something to be said, man. That Bears like locker room was dejected. I didn't go in the locker room, so I'm not saying that because I was over there. We were doing post game, and the ESPN contributor for Chicago was the one that was talking about the scene in the locker room and stuff. It sounded awful, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know it's bad when the opposing team feels for you. So we'll see how they bounce back from this. Maybe they come out and they really set the tone and turn it around, but I don't think they have the leadership for that. So also, as a Niners fan, I need the Cardinals to lose. So this is where I'm not betting. I'm just being honest.
Dude, Alan,
Yeah.
I got to say something because I was watching that game, at the local broadcast here.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the announcers, they called it. They were like, they've got what, like 11 seconds. Just run the quick out, get an extra like 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever yards it was. And then that sets you up into a perfect position to get that Hail Mary and actually have a chance. I mean, for the announcers, and of course, they're smart. They got like the ex quarterbacks. Usually, the ex player is like the color guy. So like they're not dummies. But like for the announcers to understand that, and the head coach for the Bears not to understand that was an important play, is like, oh my god! Like they gave it to us, and I was like, thanks.
The saddest part of that is Caleb Williams is the rookie. He's on the sideline, jumping up and down, yelling at the corners to come up to guard the sidelines. Like a quarterback knows what's supposed to happen in that situation. He's telling them. Yeah, he's telling them to come up, and nobody listened to it. Like there was a clip. I wish I could find it.
Right look at what you guys are doing to me.
You didn't have time. You don't have time to run a 30-yard play because then the next play doesn't happen.
No, I don't understand. I'm sorry, Dylan. It's okay, man.
He's all pissed off. You can tell.
Yeah.
Look, Dylan, trust me. As a Kyle Shanahan fan, trust me, I understand. It's some bad game management.
Go on your rant, Dylan. You know you want.
I got nothing. I got nothing. Let Nalen do his thing. I got nothing.
All right, guys.
I keep an eye on the Saints game. They're starting Bryce Young again. 7 is a big number, but Bryce Young just like he doesn't have. I don't want to say he doesn't have the talent, but he can't overcome this team in this situation. Like it's dreadful. So if you can get that down to 6.5, that'd be like a parlay thing I throw in, or people who like teasers, you definitely could tease that for like the Saints to be like a 1-point favorite. And trying to think off the top of my head if I'm missing one. I faded the Falcons. I didn't want anything to do with that game, even though on paper it looks like the Falcons are an obvious choice. It just ticked me off, man. They just make stuff so difficult for no reason. But Dallas is a hot mess, and I'm at the Giants Commanders game, so I have no opinion on that one. Leave that one alone. And I'm pretty sure give me 1 second. I'm pretty sure there's a.
I don't know what happened. He said, "Give me 1 second." I don't know what that 1 second entailed. All right. Well, we can bring Joe back on here.
The ultimate cliffhanger, man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
He knows good radio, right? Good.
He does. I don't want to take him off screen.
What is ESPN's?
Check back in minutes.
There
we go. He is.
Right.
I was gonna say, man, perfect radio. Like we'll be right back as I talked about it. Bam, cuts out.
No, you can laugh at me because I thought I was in my regular browser, and I'm in the Discord. So I was going back to my browser. I was like, where'd they go? All right, yeah. I'm on the Rams against the Seahawks. Cooper Kupp and Nakua are back. I think that Seattle's defense is still not where it needs to be, and I'm not sure if Geno can stop turning the ball over. In that spot, the Rams typically always give the Seahawks a lot of trouble, and they're riding high off their win. I think things are coming back around. For me, I projected the Rams to be like the surprise team of the NFC before they had the injuries, and so now they're kind of back to where they were before the injuries. So I'm like, I can't get off of that, So I'm not going to fade them in this spot. And then the Colts game. So this game is interesting to me because the Vikings are coming off a 2-game losing streak. The Colts, if we're being honest, they get an upgrade with Joe Flacco at quarterback, not a downgrade, right? And if you look at the spread, the Colts have never they haven't failed to cover spreads a 5 and higher yet. I don't even think they've seen the spread that high, actually. I think the highest one they've seen is maybe 4.5. But even with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, I think if the spread was like that high, I think they'd do pretty decent against it. The Vikings haven't been as dominant against the number as we would anticipate. So I looked at this like I think it's about a point too high. I know that doesn't seem like a lot to people, but I feel like it should have been closer to 4 than closer to 6. And again, I don't view Flacco as a downgrade. I view him as an upgrade. So I'm inclined to take my points with the Colts and just kind of sweat it out, because no Colts game is ever not a sweat. Like, seriously, every single time they're right on the edge of not covering, and they find a way to cover. So one of the things I saw with the Vikings in their last game is that if you're willing to blow the top off of Flores' defense, it's there. I don't know if it's because of the corners or what, but when the Rams switched to going vertical, they couldn't stop it. Didn't matter who they ran down the field. It was Nakua, some guy we'd never heard of. like it didn't matter. If they went vertical, they got him. And so Shane Steichen is an offensive-minded coach, right? Anytime you see something like that the week before, you always find a way to put it in your playbook. And they've got was my guy from is it Mitchell? I think from
AD
Texas.
Mitchell from the Colts.
Yeah, AD Mitchell. Is he still healthy?
Yeah.
So I mean, he's the perfect guy to blow the top off the defense. No doubt. He's super fast. I would anticipate seeing a couple shots, and Flacco's willing to throw it. That's in his MO. He don't care. And so I think that gives them somewhat of an edge to cover the number. I'm not predicting an upset or anything like that, but if the Vikings somehow found a way to lose 3 in a row, I would not be totally shocked. They don't look like a confident team right now.
No, the defense is reeling, man. The defense was their strength at the beginning of the season, and that just hasn't been the case the last few weeks.
Well, I had seen some talk of it, and they were saying that he was playing like a quarters look, but it was really 3 people deep and something else. But it makes sense that if you stretched him vertically outside the hash, there wouldn't be any help over top if he's really playing 3 back. Like, it's just not possible. And then if you're going to take the risk of cheating to a side, then you just run 2 people deep and just tell your quarterback, just look away from the safety. Because I mean, it sounds easier said than done, but that would be the strategy on a cover 3 type scheme that doesn't stretch far enough. We have these fast guys for a reason. That's what we do.
Right. Yep.
I know Xavier Worthy's like, I wish you would play that against me.
No doubt.
But Sam Darnold's still playing good football. The Colts are just one of those teams where on paper you could be like, they don't do this right, they don't do that right, but they cover. Reminds me of the Lions. Dan Campbell's first couple years, they didn't win many games, but they were competitive and they covered like monsters. And then look at them now; you can't stop them. So I like Shane Steichen. I think him benching Anthony Richardson was the right move for the team, more so than Anthony Richardson. Like, he's immature, he's young. I mean, that comes and goes. He's got time to fix that. But he hasn't gotten better, and the system is not complicated. It's not. So let's go Flacco today. All
right, Alan. I like it, man. Absolutely great stuff as always. Appreciate you joining us, man. Even with you working, really 100% appreciate it. But so before you get out of here, why don't you let everyone know where they can find your great work at, man?
You can find me on 106.1 ESPN Richmond. You can download the app. I am on Tuesday and Thursday this week. Kind of an abbreviated week. Got a kid doing college searches. So I'm basically trying to sway the recruitment.
Nice.
So yeah, that and then next week it's basically every day but Wednesdays.
All right. Perfect, Al. Thank you, man. Have a good rest of your day. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you as always. Oh, and he's gone. Just like that. But that was fun.
It was great. That was great stuff, man. He gives a very good insight, being able to, with him breaking down coverages and stuff. I love listening to Alan talk football. He's very intelligent football brain.
Good insight from the press box too. Inside eye. It's like insider trading a little bit, I feel like.
Yep.
So usually we bring on our special guest here, but he is having a little bit of difficulty, so we'll bring him on when he is ready. So we're just going to bring on Joe again. Welcome back, Joe.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Glad I'm still here.
He didn't really respond in the private chat, but I'm just going to bring you on anyways.
I'm not paying attention.
Mike, can I just mention this weather report here? Matt FF Dynasty on Twitter does a great weather thread every single week, and the Lions Packers game right now, 15 to 20 mile an hour winds with rain expected throughout the most of the game. And then the Rams Seahawks game, also a chance of showers, a little bit of wind gusts, so that one's not too crazy. And then the Monday night game, it's actually supposed to rain too. So I just wanted to give you guys those little notes before we answer some start sit questions, because that does matter. Hopefully that might help Joe's rankings as well.
As always, rain, unless it's like torrential downpours and you get like puddles all over the field, rain's not going to deter me. It's the heavy winds, and we're talking like it's got to be over like 30 mile per hour, like sustained gusts.
Not 20.
These guys throw the ball too hard, man. Like they're too good for wind to like affect them. The kicking game maybe slightly, but like,
sure.
We talking kickers?
No, come on, not man. Here.
I know. I'm like, it's funny. It's funny because Keith Lott and I are number 1 and number 2 in their kicker rankings, and we're both like, seriously.
That's terrific.
Like, I don't even really care that much. Like I do, and I don't. Like, I mean, I put effort into the kicker rankings, but definitely not as much as like
not as thorough of a process.
No, I mean, there's not a whole lot you could do. Like all these kickers are separated by like 0.2 points every week. Like, yeah, it's whatever.
All right. Well, we'll get it started here with someone who's always here, Dion. We really appreciate you. Somehow your Chiefs are undefeated still, and it's quite a feat. So
hit me up on Facebook, man. We got to get you access to our rankings, man. We got to get you to be a member somehow. We're always here. You obviously like us, man.
We like you. Jaden Reed, Brian Thomas, Jalen Waddle, DeAndre Hopkins, and Josh Downs. He needs 2, and I think it's pretty easy with the first and last options in Jaden Reed and Josh Downs with Jordan Love playing. Because Brian Thomas is questionable. I mean, he may not play, he may play, but it's one of those things where I believe he plays the 3:00 game. If I'm correct.
3:00
so I
would call it the late afternoon game.
So late afternoon game. That's fair. It's 3:00 for me. Central time,
4:00 for me in the time zone that matters.
And so I just don't want to. I don't want to deal with Brian Thomas.
Yes and no.
So it's Jaden Reed and Josh Downs for me. What are you thinking, Dylan?
This one's tough for me, man. I like Josh Downs. I think I'm actually gonna lock him in here. Jaden Reed. I know they usually try to manufacture him touches, man, but there's so many mouths to feed. I'm a little deterred by the weather here. I'm actually going to trust Brian Thomas. I think if he's going to play in this one, he's healthy enough to go. So I think I actually lean Downs and Brian Thomas. He's just so good, man, when he's on the field.
Even off the injury, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want to deal with it because he's questionable. I believe the last time I saw it was game time decision.
Oh my dog's outside, so I gotta go too. There's Mike. I'm gonna answer real quick. So it is Downs, and I will go with Reed for now. The nice thing is, right, is that the Packers and the Jags both play the late afternoon game. So you've got the luxury of being able to wait for the news. I won't update the rankings. He's barking at the door for no reason. There's nobody here, dog.
We love dogs, man. It's fine.
Live shows on Sunday morning. See, I'm not usually here for this reason. I think if Brian Thomas Jr. plays, he should probably get slid up the rankings. He's definitely down there because there is a question mark. But I would play him over Reed just because Reed hasn't been good. But obviously, you've just got to wait on the news. So right now, it's Downs and Reed. You can easily swap to Brian Thomas Jr. late if you don't want to. But I'm gonna bounce. Ike's here. Y'all have fun.
Thanks, Joe.
Have fun, Joe. Bye. What's up, Mike? How you doing? You want to answer this question real quick before we move on to the next?
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know what it is. Oh.
It's Jaden Reed, Brian Thomas, Jalen Waddle, DeAndre Hopkins, Josh Downs. Needs to. Pretty much been, either Reed, Downs, or Brian Thomas.
Weather is bad in Green Bay this morning, just so you know. We talked about
Downs and Reed. Reed can get some carries and stuff.
All right. Next one from Dion. We got Sam Darnold or Jordan Love.
So this one I would normally go with Love, but if it's going to be, I wouldn't. You can leave that closed, Ike. I think it's fine. Because of the weather being, possibly in effect here with Jordan Love, I would actually lean Darnold. But without the weather, I want Love.
I'm okay going Darnold this week too. Over Love because of the weather concerns. I know.
Yeah.
It says gusts to 30 to 35 miles an hour, so that could affect things at times. So I'm a little worried about that. So if I could sit a quarterback, and Darnold's been fine to be able to sit him.
Plus he gets Hawk back, so
yeah.
Hawk. All right. So
big boss man
here,
man.
I'm the boss man here. Thanks for coming back. He's got pick 1 wide receiver, full point PPR. Oh, my. Romeo Doubs, Deontay Johnson, Khalil Shakir, Calvin Ridley, and Cedric Tillman. Man, you can't fit another one of these wide receivers potentially in there because this is a tough question, boss man.
Ridley.
It's between Ridley and Tillman for me, I think. Even though Dobbs is going to get targets, I still think they manufacture touches for Jaden Reed more than Dobbs. You can't start Deontay Johnson yet. The news comes out. He's not going to be on a limited snap count. Khalil Shakir is interesting, but personally, I feel like Amari Cooper will be more involved this week than he was last week. So it's between Ridley and Tillman. Man, Cedric Tillman's got a tougher matchup, so I guess I'll lean Ridley if he's going to get 15 targets from Mason Rudolph again.
Who did the Browns play? The Chargers.
Chargers, yeah, that's a tougher matchup compared to Ridley against the Vikings.
No, Ridley gets Ridley gets the Patriots.
My bad. And still a tougher matchup for Tillman. But like I said on the Friday show, if it was Will Levis throwing the ball to Ridley, I think it would be Tillman for me in this situation. But because it's Mason Rudolph, and he's going to throw 15 targets to Calvin Ridley, I'm going to play Calvin Ridley in that situation.
I'm going to go Shakir, actually. Seems with Amari Cooper in the lineup has just opened things up for the other pass catchers more than it's helped him so far. And Khalil Shakir has been solid. I think that's where I'm going to go here. I think he's one of your safest options here, unless you consider Cedric Tillman safe after 2 weeks of 8+ targets, which I'm on the fence still. I want to keep seeing it. Hopefully we do keep seeing it from Tillman because the more the merrier, obviously. But
he seems to have the Amari Cooper role.
He seems good, which is good to see. Which you know what I mean? Like he looks like a player.
I'm not as high on Jameis as everybody else. Like at least for fantasy, I am. But when it comes to real NFL, him giving the Browns a chance. Like, man, is everybody forgetting the fact that Kyle Hamilton dropped a gimme and that game's over? Tillman doesn't get that second touchdown, and we're not really talking about it. So it's easily could have gone the other way, which is kind of Jameis' style. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next one here. I believe we kind of already answered this for you, Dion, maybe, unless this is a different league. It's Reed and Thomas.
Yep.
Reed and Thomas.
I don't want to deal. If you don't want to deal with the uncertainty with the injury, I guess you could plug in Hopkins for him, but I still would rather have Thomas I would rather have Brian Thomas in the lineup, even on a limited snap count. I would rather have Hopkins in there. Oops, Ike, I hope everything's okay.
No, my dog's being an idiot.
This is a morning league.
This is the morning of the dogs.
Fucking dogs biting me and shit.
We got another one from Dion here. Chubb or Laporta. Hi, Rip.
Rip, settle down. This one is Laporta for me. I still think Chubb is like a borderline flex, so this is a good spot to be playing him in. But Laporta without JMO is seeing the targets, and this is, even with the weather, Laporta's not going to get deep targets.
He's going to see the short and intermediate targets. I think he's fine. Hopefully 4 for 40 and a touchdown from Laporta, and he gets you where you need to go. That's my thoughts here from him.
I'll go Laporta too.
And then he's got Chuba or Laporta.
Ooh, that one I'd go Chuba. The volume favors Chuba more in that one. Like Chuba's seeing more than Chubb. I wonder if that was the question originally and he just forgot the A.
Maybe. I would go Chuba over Laporta though.
I'm still going to go Laporta, and that kind of leads into Chad's question here. Do you think Miles Sanders' role continues to expand after the career high in catches last week, or do you see him going back to irrelevancy? Yeah, it's hard to say, man. They might be down a lot in this game, too, to the Saints. He might have a decent role still.
But as soon as Brooks comes back, it's going to be Brooks and Chuba. So, I like, if he is relevant, this is his last week of relevance. Then Brooks back next week. So if you want to try and get away with a Miles Sanders, in a deep league or, DFS style, this will probably be the last week to do it.
Yeah. We got one from Chris here. Mike, go ahead.
Ooh, Bo Nix or KY1. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. Kyler Murray? No, that's not Kyler Murray. Who's KY1, Chris? I don't know. I still go Bo Nix.
Kyron? Is that Kyron? No.
I don't know. Chris?
Kyler?
Let's give him Kyler here. Bo Nix or Kyler.
If it's Kyler, I will go Kyler over Bo Nix. But if that's not Kyler, give me Bo Nix in a juicy matchup against the Ravens. They just can't. They couldn't stop Jameis Winston. They almost did, like I said, but they couldn't. So give me a red hot Bo Nix on that one.
I'd want Bo Nix too.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I love that. I love that. I love the picture. The Detroit guy with the chainsaw. But he's got another one here. Josh Jacobs, Jane Reed, Tyrone Tracy, and Josh Downs. He needs 2. I think with a game like we've been, kind of alluding to with the Packers and Lions, I know it's a terrible matchup, but he's going to get short targets. So it's Josh Jacobs over, Jane Reed, and then I go Josh Downs over Jane Reed as well.
I would too.
Yeah, no, I think that's a clean sweep there for us. Let's go back to some Dion comments. We got Nakua, Jaden Reed, Pittman, Darnell Mooney, need to. You got Darnell Mooney again. What'd you say?
I think you played Nakua for sure because I did get the update. He is going to play today. Even what we saw last week on a limited snap count for Puka Nakua, he still dominated. He's one of those players like, a Deebo Samuel where if he is on a limited snap count, he just does, so much with those limited snaps. You play him. So it's Nakua for sure. And it is a little interesting here with Mooney.
I think Pittman would be interesting with Flacco.
They're all interesting. I think that Falcons Cowboys game is sneaky shootout potential if Dak Prescott can finally get his crap together. Pittman's really like the wide receiver 1 for the Colts since Flacco's been the starter has been Josh Downs. Pittman's been just the wide receiver 2. He's got 3 wide receiver 2 finishes in the with Flacco starting. So, did you know Darnell Mooney is sneakily, wide receiver 13 on the year in total points?
Diggs is in. I don't know if he said that or not.
Who?
But we also got Trayvon Diggs is going to play today.
Trayvon Diggs is in. If anything, that's going to affect Drake London, I think, more. So I think I go Mooney and Nakua in this one.
I'm going to go Pittman, Nakua. Joe talked me into Pittman this week, having him as a top 12 wide receiver. So I'm going to trust him here. I'm going to go Nakua and Pittman. But we just had big news drop, guys. So before you answer, no Brian Robinson today.
Oh, wow. They said he was expected to play last night. Amari Cooper is inactive too due to his wrist. Wow. Yep. Man, that's big news.
We can't have nice things. Brian Robinson thing hurts me bad.
You have to play you can't play can you? Because it was a Thursday night game or I don't care about you. I don't know why it hurts you bad. That's just Brian Robinson. You should have other options.
He's nice, man. I do have other options, but losing Brian Robinson against a team who he rushed for 130 yards against last game and completely demolished them, can't go. That's tough. We love B-Rob on this.
I think I like the Giants defense even more. All right.
Yeah, that hurts me bad.
Dion says Winston or Love. I'm leaning Winston right now. That's a tough matchup against the Chargers. Man, it's hard for QBs to score against the Chargers. 9th toughest matchup. But Jameis just likes to sling it. The volume is probably going to be more in his favor. Man, I really don't want to play Winston over Love, though. Yeah, all right. Just for this week, Dion, I'll agree with Winston over Love.
I'm going to go Love. I'm not going to overreact to the weather.
I'm not overreacting too much, but the man threw for 300 plus and 3 touchdowns. I mean, it was a great matchup. Great matchup. So
I was going to say, I'm going to let you know he's not throwing for 300 plus against this Chargers team who likes to grind your gears, grind the ball into the ground, run a slow pace. Jameis isn't going to have the chance to throw for 300. For me, he doesn't have a massive ceiling in this one against them because of that. I think Jordan Love still has the ability. What's that?
That's all. No, like I said on Friday, the Chargers are throwing the ball more.
I agreed.
So, I mean, that is a little in your favor.
Where are you going here?
Is probably leading Love, if I had to guess.
I think Winston might struggle against the Chargers.
And then Keith, thanks for joining us, man. He's got Zach Ertz or Evan Ingram. I can see how this could be close, especially with Brian Robinson being ruled out as well. But I just see there's a lot more injuries. Why I'm not high on Brian Robinson is I don't think he's going to play. I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor. But if he's not playing, man, Ingram's going to just get all the targets. So I'm on Ingram this week.
Brian Thomas is going to play, man. But I'm
so sure.
Because they said it's going to happen. So I'm still going to go Evan Ingram here. I think he's just got more upside than Ertz.
I haven't seen the update.
Where are you going, Ike?
Evan Ingram.
I like it. This one made it easy for us, Tim. Amari Cooper or Jalen Waddle. Looks like you're starting Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, one is not playing.
Long Island iced tea with some Fireball or Klingon blood wine. I'm going to go with the wine, man. A little bit on a wine kick lately. I'm going to go there.
I'm going Long Island iced tea.
Can I have it without the Fireball? I like
LaPlant, you like Long Island iced tea, so maybe you should try it with a shot of Fireball in it next time. Just for shits and gigs.
Dude, Fireball is gross now.
For you. I'm not a huge fan either. If I'm drinking something with a little bit of spice, I'm gonna go towards a Jack Fire. If I'm being honest with you.
Every time they give you a shooter though at the weddings, always warm too. So warm Fireball is just disgusting.
Tom, you got it. Tom, you got some issues with your running backs here. We'll try to help you. What do you got? PPR. I got Achane, Ramondre Stevenson, Nick Chubb, Rico Dowdle. Achane and Stevenson is currently, and D-Hop in the flex.
I like that.
I think that's what. Yeah.
Curtis Samuel active, T Higgins inactive. So I'm gonna go with Dowdle.
Too.
I like Dowdle over Stevenson this week. With Zeke being inactive because of a disciplinary thing and Dalvin Cook being the backup for Dowdle, if they feed Dalvin Cook more than 10 touches, the Cowboys will go down as the worst organization right now.
I've never seen someone as high on Rico Dowdle as you, I don't think. There might not be someone in the industry that's as high.
No, that's not true. That's not true. I've listened to some podcasts where what's his face, Mike Wright from the Fantasy Footballers. He's high on Dowdle as well. But come on, if you think Dalvin Cook is going to be a mainstay in this offense, Falcons are the team that give up the second most catches to running backs. Dowdle is a PPR guy. I think it's going to be him catching those instead of Dalvin Cook. I hope so. If you're going to be starting anybody over Stevenson, I'd go Dowdle. I just don't trust Stevenson with Jacoby Brissett. That's my thing.
What's May cleared protocol yesterday?
Oh yeah, it is Drake May. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. I mean, if you want to, Stevenson's the safer play, but I think Dowdle offers you a higher ceiling, better offense than the Patriots.
All right. Dame, good morning. Defensive question, Eagles D or Minnesota's D? Let's go ahead there. Minnesota gets Joe Flacco. Who do the Eagles get? They get Jacksonville, right?
Yeah. I think I'm going Eagles D on that one.
Give me the Eagles defense with their pass rush after them just trading Cam Robinson away with an already porous offensive line for the Jaguars. I think the Eagles D.
I do Eagles too.
Pretty easy, as well as Kincaid or Kyle Pitts at tight end 1. Bills get the Dolphins.
It don't matter who they get. It's Pitts.
Yeah, it's Pitts.
No, like Pitts no ceiling, Kincaid. I get it. It's everyone's high on Pitts, man. He's gonna throw in a clunker here at some point. No, yeah. As well as Jake Ferguson or Laporta.
Ferguson for me.
Roberts there, yeah.
Yeah, that one's a little closer. I bet I'm curious to see what that is in Joe's rankings. I think the volume favors Ferguson more in this matchup, but I can understand if you want to fit Laporta in there. I think personally I'd leave Ferguson.
Love you long time. Wide receiver 2 at a flex. Waddle, Jacoby Myers, Nick Chubb, Javonte Williams.
I would play Jacoby Myers over Waddle. And then the flex, I think.
Waddle.
Man, do you really want to? I think so.
Waddle and Myers.
Yeah, it's Waddle and Myers here for me too. Waddle, baby, Waddle, baby, Waddle, baby, Waddle.
Javonte's been getting most of the work. In that it's just a terrible matchup. If he can get PPR work, I would be starting Javonte Williams. But
Audric Esime was also reported to be more involved this week. I got an update about that as well.
How long has that been being reported? Yeah, it's Waddle and Myers.
You have zero trust in Javonte Williams, I feel like. I
own him in one dynasty league. 15 touches. I trust that he's going to get 15 touches.
I don't care if you don't do anything with him. I really don't. I really don't.
Ramondre Stevenson doesn't really do anything with his 15 touches a game.
But sometimes he does.
Sometimes. It's feast or famine with him. All right.
I got another defensive question from the Schmitty if you want to pull that one up, Mike.
Yeah, there it is. Bengals, Falcons, Chargers, or Bears defense to start. You got Bears versus the Cardinals, Falcons versus the Cowboys, Bengals versus the Raiders, and I'm blanking on who the Chargers face. Browns. That's it.
Going Chargers.
I am actually going Bengals in this one against the Raiders.
One of the worst defenses in the league.
It's Gardner Minshew, though, man.
I'm also going to go Chargers. I think you could get Jameis.
I think Bears would be the second choice out of that.
I'm also cool with the Bears, yeah. Obviously, I dropped Minnesota's defense and picked up the Bears while we were in the car yesterday, Ike.
Yeah.
Did you do that when I dropped them?
Yeah, I'm starting them over Minnesota here. But I think, I'm with Ike. I think the Chargers are your best option here.
Chad says, am I crazy wanting to smash Panther props today with the Saints down 3 corners? It was to Chris Robbin, but either way, we'll answer it. I don't think you're crazy. I mean, they are down. They're going to probably have to pass a lot.
Smashing anything, though, that's a little much. With Bryce Young throwing the football to him. Maybe Ashman.
Turnovers?
Yeah, maybe Leggett. Possibly. I don't hate that. I haven't looked at those lines, if I'm being honest with you. Chad, so I'm not sure what they're at, but if you're getting like Xavier Leggett at like 38.5, 44.5, I could see him getting to 50. I think I'd be okay with that. Would you be okay with that, Mike, if his yardage prop was like 38.5?
Yeah, and he's active officially, so yeah, I'd do it.
All right on. Another one from the Schmitty. We got Stafford, May, Flacco, start 2. Stafford or Flacco? Mike, sound good to you?
I think it's Stafford and Flacco, yeah. Flacco is, a great streaming option this week, and Stafford with Puka and Cooper Kupp is another good streaming option. It's Stafford and Flacco. Ike, how you feeling? Start 2. You are muted, friend.
I go Stafford and Flacco, although I do like Drake May. He's been pretty solid when he plays.
I like that we're getting the full tour of the house like today. I enjoy that. I enjoy that every angle we can get. We got
Bro told me to move, so I was like, oh god, we have to figure out a way to do this quick.
Laporta or TJ Hawkinson in his debut. I'm just gonna go Laporta here.
It's Laporta. I want to wait and see on Hawkinson for 1 week. See how healthy he is, and
Yeah, I'll go Laporta.
This offense.
Monty, Chase Brown.
It's Monty and Chase Brown for me with Zach Moss doubtful. These guys, I mean, Chase Brown's going to get the most workload out of all three of these, and you can't sit Monty for Mondre.
I disagree. Ramondre might get the most touches of everyone in these 2, 3.
I disagree. I think Chase Brown does.
Monty doesn't get more than 15 touches usually in the past 3 weeks. He's relying on touchdowns.
I'm arguing Chase Brown. I'm arguing Chase Brown will get the more touches because of Zach Moss not being there.
But he's not. He hasn't been that good lately either. I'm going
Chase Brown. Chase Brown has been getting 15 touches a game. Zach Moss has been getting 8 the past 3 games. So I mean, that easily can bump up to 20.
Yeah, but Chase Brown is struggling with efficiency. So.
Yeah, but when you play the Raiders, your efficiency goes up.
Jonathan Brooks expected to make season debut in week 10. So that goes back to the Miles Sanders question we had earlier. So if you want to play Miles Sanders week, this is the last week we are doing. So I'm going to side with LaPlant here and go Monty and Chase Brown in that question. Oh, God dang it, Mike. My bad. Go ahead.
You're fine. And then your brother Dylan Gary says Gino or Jaden Daniels. This week I am gonna go Gino. I know Brian Robinson is out, but this Giants defense.
You're gonna go Gino.
It's in our league. It's our league. If it wasn't our league, I would go Jaden because the rushing value.
Gino doesn't have DK.
Yeah, no DK. No Brian Robinson vulturing touchdowns from Jaden Daniels in the red zone. I'm 100% going Jaden, and I'm feeling very confident about it.
The last time Jaden Daniels played the Giants was the only time he has finished outside the top 12 this year.
I also had Brian Robinson rushing for 130 yards in that game.
That was also week 2.
You talked about that.
As Ike said on the Friday show, Giants lead the league in sacks. You don't think that's going to get to Jaden Daniels?
Washington also has a terrific offensive line, Mike. I know they're down.
I wouldn't say it's terrific.
It's been terrific this season.
I wouldn't say terrific. No.
Google it.
Like I said,
I'd still go Jaden Daniels, though.
If this was your normal league, not our league, because you know this is our league where he's asking this question, it's Jaden Daniels. But in our league where you get 1 point per 10 passing yards, and Geno Smith is, through 8 weeks leading the league in passing attempts, I'm going Geno Smith.
I would go Jaden Daniels. But that was just me.
I will love to see who scores more points this week out of these two in our league because it's going to be close, I feel like. Gary also has here Cortland Sutton, Xavier Legette, Jordan Addison. Pick one. You can go first.
I'm going Sutton. I know he can lay you a goose egg for some reason, but there's times where he's dropping 8 catches for you and like a touchdown. This could be a week for him. Ravens struggle against quarterbacks and wide receivers, so gotta roll with it.
He saw 11 targets last week.
Yeah, but then like 2 weeks ago, he dropped a 0 or something, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Dylan.
Pro Football Network Commanders' offensive line has been the 8th best offensive line in football this year.
I wouldn't say that's stellar.
Sutton, Legette, Addison, top 10 offensive line in the league. I would love that.
As a Bears fan, I can understand that point of view.
Cortland Sutton for me.
All right, and then he's got Denver or Philly's defense. I would go Philly's defense.
Who's Denver play?
Denver has a good matchup. I can't remember.
It's the Ravens.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't go Denver. You can't go Denver's defense here. No. Going back to Tom's question, though, him adding. Sorry, Mike. I know you skipped over it. Where was the other one? He had Downs as well. I would start Downs over Stevenson in here. Yeah.
I would start Downs over Stevenson.
Would you start
Downs? I'd start Downs over D-Hop.
No.
Well, I think it was start 2. Right?
No,
yeah, but he has D-Hop and flex, so I'd start H and Stevenson and then Downs over D-Hop.
I would do that as well, yes.
Yeah, Downs over D-Hop, yes. All right, and then Sam here, he's got Brian Thomas Jr. or Khalil Shakir with the news that Amari Cooper is out.
Now I like Khalil Shakir last with Cooper out. Does that make sense?
I still want BTJ.
I just did the spiel about him opening up for the other Bills wide receivers, so I'm kind of going to lead BTJ here still.
Go ahead, Ike. You said BTJ?
Yeah.
Man, where did you get the report that Brian Thomas Jr. is playing?
I saw it this morning.
Expected to play, pain dependent. Start him, hope no setbacks.
They're just going to hype him up with Oxycontin, man, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, man. I'll go BTJ, man, but I am scared about the injury. That's the one thing. I am scared about a re-injury.
Do the Bengals have any wide receivers left? Jesus.
Yeah, they got Jamar Chase.
Who's not playing today?
Inactive too.
Jermaine Burton. And Andre Ilya, Yoshivas.
Yeah.
Chase has start one here. Brian Thomas, Waddle, or Amon-Ra St. Brown, I believe that is.
Yeah. I'm going to go St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. You still go, yeah. He's got a touchdown.
Yeah, you always start Amon-Ra no matter what.
He's not a deep ball pass catcher either, and they're like
Let's just gonna help him even more.
He's gonna get involved in some crossing routes and stuff. The Lions aren't just gonna be able to run the ball and control the clock like they have been in recent games. They're gonna need to throw the ball a little bit more in this one. And I know Goff is outside, but Amon-Ra's should be fine.
Is this like one of Goff's 2 games outside this year? 3 games?
Mm-hmm.
Man, yeah, it's still ASB though. ARSB. Dean,
We're going to Myers here.
Yeah, it's Myers over Shakir. Ike, you feeling the same? Clean sweep?
Myers, yeah.
Also, a guy who's kind of good at football. Sneaky good football player, Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, he's just been solid the past 3 years. Nothing crazy, just putting out wide receiver 25 finishes.
Except when he throws a lateral pass backwards.
True.
He did that on purpose.
To the team that we're going to the next year.
I think he did it on purpose.
What's up, Brian? Thanks for joining us, man. This one's a little easier, I guess, because Brian Robinson has been ruled out, but he's got Tyrone Tracy, Alvin Kamara, or Rachaad White. Pick one, and it's smash Kamara against.
I think it was Kamara even with Brian Robinson healthy.
You let me talk.
Dude's playing the Panthers. Come on.
Dylan? Kamara?
Yeah, easy Kamara, yeah.
All right. And then I didn't mean to bring that up. My bad. Wan'Dale Robinson or Joey Chestnut for my flex. And for those of you who don't know, Joey Chestnut.
Joey Chestnut, man. That's the hot dog eater.
But you saw the odds on FanDuel. Come on.
You know what I meant. Julius Chestnut. Not Joey. Sorry, I meant Julius. That was funny, though. Joey Chestnut.
That was funny.
Julius Chestnut. My bad. So it's Wan'Dale Robinson over that. I know Tajay Spears is inactive, and it's going to be Chestnut behind Pollard, but it's still Wan'Dale Robinson.
Vegas thinks they know something we don't know because we were in the car yesterday on the way back from the Illinois game, and was it DraftKings or FanDuel? FanDuel, wasn't it? FanDuel had Julius Chestnut as a minus 120 anytime touchdown score.
I'm going Chestnut.
Minus odds for Chestnut to score a touchdown, which absolutely blew my mind. I don't know if it was a misprint or what was going on, but that
probably a misprint.
Apparently, they know that Julius Chestnut's going to find the end zone today.
Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't, because you've also said, like, why are the Chiefs favored by 9 points on Friday? What do they know?
I did, yeah. That one's weird. That one's weird too. That the Chiefs are favored by 9 over anybody. I agree. I agree with you there. But why would Julius Chestnut be a minus 120 odds to score a touchdown? What baffled me?
I don't know.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I guess.
It's not fun. It's not fun. But Wan'Dale Robinson is top 4 in targets through 8 weeks, so he gets crap targets, but he gets targets nonetheless. Dean, he's got Tony Pollard or Ramondre Stevenson. I think with the matchup, and I know you just kind of talked up Chestnut a little bit, it's still Pollard over Stevenson for me.
I'll deal with the foot injury. Hasn't practiced all week. Jeez. Give me Ramondre Stevenson.
I'm going Stevenson as well.
All right. So what do we got here next?
We got our weekly defensive question, man. Got to throw that one up there from Dion.
Oh, we did? There we go, Dion. He's got Zach Allen, Kobe Turner, Trey Hendrickson, Ojarier, I think.
Ojolari, I think.
Too. Ojolari. Okay.
Yep.
Zach Allen's a lock.
Trey Hendrickson is also a lock.
I think so, yeah, playing the Raiders. So Zach Allen, Trey Hendrickson, Dion. But I would go see, this is why Joe was talking about we got to figure out a way to get you to become a member, because you can get access to our DFS rankings, and these will definitely help you with these questions.
IDP rankings?
Yeah, IDP rankings, all that. You know what I mean. All right.
Some other questions there. We could do rapid fire for the last.
Guys, get your questions in. We still got another 12 minutes here to answer any of your questions. Whoever's watching live, that's why we're here to answer your, tilting questions. We tilt on a daily basis, answering our own questions. So let us help you tilt.
Take Bigsby or Travis Etienne against the Eagles.
Oh man,
Etienne.
That's ugly.
I'm also gonna go Etienne because the game script as well.
Find a different way. Find a different running back. But yeah, if it's between those two, it's Etienne over Bigsby.
You got to sit one. Amon-Ra in bad weather or Josh Downs?
Josh Downs.
Honestly, I'd sit Amon-Ra with the way Josh Downs has played. He's got 2 top 10 finishes with Joe Flacco and a wide receiver 18 finish.
I'm going to still play Amon-Ra St. Brown there. Baker or Geno? We got this question a couple times today.
I would go Geno.
Yeah. I decided the Baker side. He just gets it done somehow. I know it's not a great matchup against the Chiefs, but he just always seems to be getting it done. Yeah. We got Dak or Geno here.
That one I go Dak. I don't trust it. He was one of my sour players, but man, he's just set up for success in this game to finally get things on track.
Yep, we do got a live question here from Matt. Good to see you. Tucker Kraft, Sam Laporta. That one's gonna be Laporta for me.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. Man,
Laporta.
I think I lean Laporta, but it's close. It's not by much. Give me Laporta just because J-Mo's out. That is close.
Evan Ingram or David Njoku?
I would go Evan Ingram. I like I said, if Brian Thomas is playing, man, I'm worried. I trust Evan Ingram's going to be the easy, getting all the underneath targets. So
I would go.
I'm gonna go Evan Ingram still, yeah, because I don't think it affects Brian Thomas a whole lot. Would you go Chase Brown over the other tight end at the flex spot as well for that? I would assume so.
What do you mean? It's Chase Brown over a tight end, yeah. Unless you're
over Njoku.
Yeah, unless the tight end's Brock Bowers.
All right, start 2 here. Zay Flowers, Michael Pittman Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, Darnell Mooney, or Chase Brown. 2 of them.
I have to start 2 of them. Chase Brown, I think, is a lock with his workload as the one guy. Man, I want to play. It was
Pittman
Mooney,
and Brown for me.
Pittman.
Flowers, JSN.
Man, Flowers gets the Surtain treatment. I think I'd go Mooney. Mooney's been wide receiver 13 on the year. Give him some credit. Give me Mooney.
Yeah, I'd play Mooney there.
All right.
And Chase Brown.
We got Cade, Don't Call Me Rotten Otten against or Trey McBride, full point PPR.
Cade.
Actually, I went Cade here too, and somebody laughed at my comment.
That's a tough one. If you can get both of them in your lineup, I'd try to, because McBride, I think, he's finally found his role in that offense. But man, Cade Otten has the best matchup for tight ends. Chiefs just don't care. I mean, yeah, they traded for Uche, but I don't know if that really affects their ability.
He's a blitzer.
Exactly. He's not going to affect their ability to cover the tight end, man. I lean Otten just slightly because of the touchdown upside. But that is a tough matchup. So if you want to play,
he gets targets like crazy right now.
McBride, I think, is technically safer.
Start 3 here. Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs. Locking in Bijan, locking in Derrick Henry.
I think you're sitting Swift. I know it's a decent match.
I'd do Jacobs over Swift.
It's just Jacobs gets more touches, 20 a game. Better O-line, too.
I mean, Swift is getting those kind of touches, too. It's been a little absurd lately. That's why I'm struggling here. Cardinals defense has been surprisingly better against running backs as of late, so I think I lean Joshy over Swift slightly there. I think you guys are right.
DeAndre Swift, running back 39 the last 3 weeks. I'm sitting Swift.
Oh, running back 39 the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. It's been weird.
Is that because he had a bye week?
Yeah.
No, this is his last 3 weeks played. His last 3 weeks.
What has he scored?
Am
I just oblivious to this, or?
Oh, that's why. That's why. I'm sorry.
What are you talking about right now?
I had it. I don't know why, but like when I filtered it, it still had it organized by targets instead of fantasy points.
I was gonna say that's confusing.
Swift's been really good for a month.
He's been running back 6 the last 3 weeks. That's my bad. I don't know why it kept the filter as targets only when I did that on fantasy data. That
made me think I dreamt that or something. that was weird.
That was weird. I don't know why it did that. I still sit Swift. I'm
still going Jacobs.
Mostert or Rashad White?
White.
Man, White's gonna get the volume, but that's a tough matchup.
Get volume if Bucky's in.
I still think he gets the volume.
They're literally gonna get the same amount of touches, like 15 each, probably.
So let's see here. Rashad White saw 6 targets, had 5 receptions last week. That's what I'm talking about. Man, give me White, but it's gonna be ugly. Mostert could have another touchdown this week against the Bills.
Goff or Geno?
Geno.
Ooh. Yeah, I go Geno too.
As well. Jacoby Myers, BTJ. I'm gonna go Jacoby Myers. I've been BTJ today, but Jacoby Myers in a really, really, really good matchup against Cincinnati. Love that.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm low on BTJ with the injury, so give me Jacoby.
Dalton Kincaid or Jake Ferguson?
Ferguson.
Yeah, Ferguson.
Baker or Lamar? I'm not sure why that was a question.
Lamar.
DeAndre Hopkins or Rico Dowdle? Full point PPR.
I would go Dowdle in this matchup. Like I said, Falcons are the team that have allowed the second most receptions to running backs, and I think Dowdle will get a decent amount of those.
I go Dowdle too.
Not gonna do it.
You're such a hater.
DJ Moore or Josh Downs here?
Oh man. I
told them Downs.
I think I would go Downs. Yeah. I know it's small sample size, but man, nothing worse than a top 18 finish for Josh Downs with Joe Flacco. And the Minnesota Vikings are a pass funnel, so give me Downs over Moore.
We got Kyler Murray or Matthew Stafford full point PPR.
Matthew.
If it was our league, it's Matthew Stafford. I still think it's Kyler Murray. Like with normal scoring, with rushing being valued over it, I think it's Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I think that's the right play too. It's very close though.
If it was our league, though, it'd be Stafford. If it was our league, I think it'd be Stafford.
Nobody cares about our league, man.
I'm just saying this context. If there's context involved, regular scoring, it's Kyler Murray because he can bust one off for a 40-yard touchdown at any point.
Kyler Murray or Tua?
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I go Kyler. Kyler.
Yeah, I'll go Kyler with Dolphins playing the Bills. We mentioned it earlier. The Bills kind of just dominate that series. Alexander Madison, Kincaid, or DeAndre Hopkins at the flex?
It's Alexander Madison. He's getting those touches.
Fucking dog.
What was that?
Jordan Love or Derek Carr against the Panthers. This is an interesting one.
Jordan Love or Derek Carr. Man, Derek Carr is streamer worthy because he's playing the Panthers. He's got Olave back. He's got Kamara. I don't want to sit Love, man, but that's tough.
I'm going to.
I think I still play. No, I think I still play Love.
Where are you going, Aaron?
I feel like
I'm going Jordan Love here.
Devon Achane, Chase Brown.
Devon Achane.
Achane for sure.
Find a way to get both of those in your lineup if you can.
We like Pittman better or Josh Downs?
Downs.
I like Downs better as well. Flex full point PPR, Keenan Allen or Cedric Tillman.
Tillman.
Oh, man, tougher matchup. But yeah, give me Tillman.
We ever think we were going to get a start sit question of Cedric Tillman or Keenan Allen?
Nope.
Where we'd answer Keenan Allen probably. It's a little, Cedric Tillman.
I would have expected the answer to be Keenan Allen, but that's where I'm wrong.
Very weird. Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton, or Romeo Dobbs.
Is it only one?
Yeah.
Cortland.
I think this is a week where Zay Flowers is going to have a down week. He has been good as of good late, but give me Cortland Sutton. I think this is a week where they need Cortland Sutton again, like last week for his 11 targets. You'll probably see that again.
Yeah. No, I think that one's lock it in. Cortland Sutton for me as well. Kyle Pitts or Brock Bowers. Good options.
Bowers.
I don't like that you're giving yourself those two options though, man. That's just causing for trouble there, having both of those tight ends on the roster. But
that one's Bowers.
I'm gonna go Bowers there as well. Would you play Baker or Flacco or Winston?
Flacco.
That one's Flacco. Baker, Flacco, Winston. Yeah, give me Flacco. He can throw so much on the Vikings.
Josh Jacobs or Devonta Smith?
Ooh.
Give me Joshy.
I want to, like, if you're chasing points, you played Garrett Wilson on Thursday. Give me Devonta Smith. He's going to give you a higher ceiling. But if you want to play it safe, go Josh Jacobs, getting 20.
Yeah, I'll go Josh.
Brian Thomas Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marv.
Marvin Harrison. Maserati Marv.
And then last one here. Perfect timing, too. PPR flex play Dobbins or Khalil Shakur.
It's been ugly for Dobbins, but he's still getting double the amount of touches as Khalil Shakur. So give me Dobbins.
Yep. Plus it might be a run type game for this game. So yeah, I'll go with that.
I think it's Dobbins as well. I said earlier, I like Shakur better with Amari Cooper on the field with him opening it up for those other pass catchers. So I'm going to go Dobbins.
12 targets the last 3 games. So, I mean, he is getting somewhat of involvement in the passing game too. So, yeah, Dobbins.
Yeah, he is. I just wish Dobbins was still better. Like, play better.
Well, when
I think he was the first few weeks.
Yeah. When you go through injuries like he has, I mean, just be grateful you've gotten what you got and no injuries yet. Knock on wood.
True that.
All right, guys. It was a fun week. I love doing this with you guys. It's always fun answering all your guys' start set questions. Hopefully you join us next week, and hopefully you stick around because we got some DFS guys coming in here, help win you some money. But Ike, let everybody know what you're doing and where they can find it at.
Mondays is Injury Impact, and Friday is the show. I'll be there.
All right, Dylan, how about you?
Yep, catch the Katie Shaw Fantasy Football Podcast on Fridays. Check me out here on Sundays for the Sunday Social, and then also hit me up in the NBA Discord where we're always talking the NBA DFS Discord over there. I do the NBA DFS cheat sheet, so make sure to check that out. But guys, I'm out. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ike.
Peace out, guys. Good luck in your matchups, except you, Ike. Adios, fellas. All right, now time for the DFS lineup part of the show, guys. Help me welcome in the king of cash and the master of MME, Chris Robbin and Keith Flemming. How's it going, fellas, on this beautiful Sunday?
What's up, Mike?
Hello.
Appreciate you guys, as always.
Good to be seen. Feel like we got some low energy going on, but we know as we get rolling, I won't be able to shut up. Right?
Don't start calling me Chris. Come on.
You guys are like snowballs. Once you get that rolling, it turns into an avalanche. So I'm gonna just get out of the way and let you guys start that avalanche. Good luck, fellas.
Thank you. Hello, Keith, and happy afternoon 2 minutes after noon. Realistically, it should be 1:02 right now. The game should be kicking off any minute. That daylight savings nonsense, which I had to look it up. I mean, I know, spring, what does it say? Spring forward, fall back and all that. But I had to look up what time it had. Like, why does it go back or forward at 2 a.m., like in the middle of the night?
That's a very good question. And what's the answer?
I have not the way the summer. I'm making this up. The way the summer solstice in the Earth rotates around the sun, something crazy like that. But I also thought there was a case where like a president or somebody was going to just get rid of it, because the United States is the only one who abides by that, if I'm not mistaken. And to be fair, California, maybe out in the West Coast, again, making this all up just from a memory perspective, you don't have to follow by it. But again, if you show up late to work 1 hour and go, well, I mean, I know you're on this time, but I'm on a different kind of clock in my head, you probably get written up or toasted or fired. So Keith, we are here. It is week 9 already. In the blink of an eye, poof, a flash, it's week 9, which means we're 1 week away from it being week 10, double digits already. There's just so many juicy storylines. The playoffs are, again, there's still a ton of time, but the playoff races are starting to take shape. We're going to get to see, I imagine, which way we can go with our fandom, right? The Lions play Green Bay in Green Bay today. Your Atlanta Falcons are also playing. And there's a lot going on, lot to be said here. So before we dive into like the nitty gritty, what's your overall 10,000 foot reaction to the week, as I always ask?
It's a tough slate. And to me, the main reason it's a tough slate is it's one of those weeks I wish you could just play a bunch of flexes, and it's like a super flex league, because I feel very good about a lot of quarterbacks, very good about a lot of running backs. But then the wide receiver to me this week is just a crapshoot, where you either have to spend, a lot on them and then kind of downgrade some of the running backs you want to play or QBs, or you just have to basically throw caution to the wind and play guys that you would be very, comfortable with, because they would be considered like bottom of the barrel, like kind of scraping type dudes. But that's kind of where it is this week, because I don't love a lot of the wide receiver matchups. A lot of them are playing in games where I could see those teams being up a lot and their volume being down because of that, run heavy scripts. So it's really like, for me, it's trying to figure out what QBs and running backs to play. And then I just sort of filled in the wide receivers from there, depending on like who the QB is, maybe stacking, obviously a pass catcher with them, and then kind of what price range. But I think it's a pretty tough week overall, with this slate.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And opposite that, I went like dirt cheap on running backs, and then I kind of plugged in wide receivers where I could, and come to find out, I've had to redo all those lines, because I left so much money on the table. Like if you put in a main slate, single entry main slate, and you have $12,000 left on the table, it's probably not a good deal. And we've always preached, right? It's like on a single game slate, right? It's okay to leave money on the table, and especially if you get to the point where you're tinkering, right? You have $500 left or $1,500 left, and the tinkering would be harmful to the outcome of your lineup. Don't do that. But when I built so many lines, I wrote them down. Obviously, I worked on bottom of the barrel, and like Jamal Williams and Kenny Gainwell as my running backs, and then Cavante Turnpin and Jalen Coker as my wide receivers, you're going to have, $12,000 left over. So, got to put in some studs here and there. So it's around 12:06 Eastern time. Before we dig into, because I'll just go for it, any odd injury news that we're not made aware of? I know, if I'm not mistaken, Jordan Love is going to give it a go. That's the only one I know, because of the fandom.
Brian Robinson's out, which is a little surprising. He was supposed to play. They've ruled him inactive. So McNichols, Eckler, if you have them, on your rosters, they're good to go. Giants have been really struggling with the run. I'm very interested to see what happens with Tony Pollard, because we know Tajay Spears has been ruled out. If he's out, Julius Chestnut, the all-time dart of DraftKings at 4K, versus a New England run defense that has been just awful here in recent weeks. But I know Trayvon Diggs is going to play in the Cowboys. Whether or not that's a good thing, bad thing, we'll see. for the Falcons, pass catching options. But overall, most of the start sits, we know a lot of them have to do with Sunday, Monday, unfortunately. And I always lean to, I would rather play somebody that I know is going to play than leave it up to somebody who's very questionable, like a Sunday night, Monday night game, where if there's no options for you to pick them up, I just think you're playing Russian roulette at that point.
Yeah, within reason, like you said. I mean, if it's sometime, I mean, I'm a weirdo and a sicko when it comes to this kind of stuff. So let's say, Monday Night Football, I'm going to put in one of the running backs and I'll do it just to do it. But I want, in the back of my mind, I want to make sure that there is an actionable pivot, right? Like, even if it's 2 minutes before and the timer's ticking away, and I can get somebody in, but not at the expense of a main slate, right? If you're going to play that. Main slate doesn't include Monday Night Football. For some odd reason, they added Sunday Night Football. But let's say, I got a spot open at running back for today, Sunday's slate. I'm not going to, if you go through that, Thursday through Monday, you got to be a real sicko to play that Thursday through Monday. There's so much stuff that can go on from that, not at the expense of the main slate. I won't do it just to do it. When we look at running backs this week, if I can rewind a minute, that the Brian Robinson call, I have a killer anytime touchdown bet. It's like 7 or 8 guys, and it seems pretty easy peasy. It's like the studs, right? Like Kyron and Chase. Yeah. Justin Jefferson, things like that. But I put in a couple other, lower end running backs, and I think it's pretty solid. Brian Robinson was in that. I will omit him and I'll report back at the end of the broadcast. When we look at quarterbacks this week, I'm going back to the well with Bo Nix. Bo Nix has been in bottom of the barrel. Actually, he's not trending towards it. He has already become a bottom of the barrel all-star because of my propensity to add him in by any means. If I'm going to catch heat, I'm going to catch heat. But the kid's made good on what he's been able to do on the field. And it's only getting better in the Sean Payton offense. And we saw one of his old wide receivers at Oregon said, Bo used to go to bed at like 8:00 at night on campus. He didn't care. And it's cool. I mean, I'm a 40-year-old man and I love to get in bed at 8:00, but that just tells you as a young kid, probably he was the king of the campus. He could do and go anywhere he wants. He was, I'm going to go to bed at 8. I'm going to study. I'm going to look at the playbook, and maybe just some little intricacies like that, lend ourselves to, how these kids are as men or how they're going to grow up on the football field. And you got to have some sort of brains to take on a Sean Payton offense. And he's doing very well. And let's say 5-6 weeks ago, Bo Nix was, on waiver wires and seasonal formats. Nobody was really, bothering him in DFS formats because he hadn't done much. And in the grand scheme of things, Sean Payton wasn't really cutting him loose. I think now, as he progresses and advances, the playbook gets to open up a little bit more. There's more plays available to him, and Denver's in Baltimore. And at first glance, people are fading him in Denver because they see Baltimore as a good team. Their offense is fantastic, but in a game of possession, time of possession thing, if Baltimore is going to score quick and fast and Lamar's going to run all over the place, Bo Nix and Denver's going to have some more extra time on the field. Bo Nix, 22 to 23 completions, 270 yards. I have him, a pair of touchdown passes, and around 4 to 5 carries for 20 yards. He's a slam dunk for me today, but it's not headlining the article because everybody and their mother is back on him. Who I do want to mention as the headliner here, it was in the not the thumbnail, but the opening. It's Justin Herbert. The Chargers go to Cleveland. Cleveland's middle of the pack. They're 16th actually overall against opposing quarterbacks. And right now, Herbert continues to get healthier and stronger. And in doing that, he's starting to produce. 5th-year quarterback, Justin Herbert. People forgot about him, right? He was like a ghost. Nobody said anything about him. And he's threw multiple touchdowns in week 8 for the first time since week 2. Even more exciting, he ran for just shy 49 yards last week. So that's a strong sign, right? That his ankle is golden. He can get rolling. And again, when you look at the Chargers offense, you might not think there's not really much going around there, but you don't need much when you have, Lad MC, let's just call him that. McConkey, I believe is how you say his last name. He broke out last week. We all knew, those of us in the know understood that Lad was, kind of right in the middle in terms of all the draft prospects. And now with Justin Herbert to me has always been a stone cold stud, top 10 quarterback, sometimes top 5, overall in real life. But now in DFS formats, things are starting to happen and open up, and we have to take advantage because he's only 7-1 on FanDuel, 5-3 on DK. So Herbert should be ready and rolling to take advantage of the Browns defense that's allowed 12.4 yards per reception. So if you're going to use Justin Herbert naked or nude, as I said in the article, you can do that. That's fine. But Justin Herbert stacked with Ladd, stacked with Will Dissly, that's the way I'm going at quarterback. And if you want the rest, I'm sure, Keith you have that wonderful article that's out, Wednesday night or Thursday, or go check out Bottom of the Barrel, because Jameis Winston is mentioned there. And Derek Carr in a way. I mean, it could go on and on, but I ate up about 8 minutes just chatting. So, Keith, where are you going at running backs? Or excuse me, quarterback?
First of all, I just want to add to your Justin Herbert, because I do have him in cash this week. It is extremely disrespectful that he is 5,300 versus Cleveland. I mean, for starters, Michael Penix, who we know is not going to play this week, he's 5,400. Sam Howell, the backup for Seattle, is 5,300. Like, what is going on here? He's 9th in points per game on DraftKings over his last 3 games. He's a 22nd most expensive QB on the DK slate. I call that value. But the big thing, there has been a huge change, and you were getting at that after the bye. He was obviously banged up. The offensive line was banged up. They were a totally different team the first 4 games, and then in the last 3. The first 4 games, he was averaging 144 yards per, and they were only averaging 25 pass attempts per game. Post-bye, 288 passing yards per game. They're throwing it 34 times per game. So the Chargers are believing in Herbert, as obviously he's getting more healthy. Also, by the way, since week 6, you know what team is throwing it the most on first down in the NFL? The LA Chargers with Justin Herbert. And this, to your point, the 57 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks is a really big deal, because he's playing the Cleveland Browns this week, who already 5 different QBs have 20-plus rushing yards versus the Cleveland Browns. 4 different QBs have 40-plus rushing yards versus the Cleveland Browns. And then, oh, by the way, on top of all that, their number 1 corner, Denzel Ward, he's out. 2 of their linebackers out. Like, this is a Browns defense that you can get at right now. I think that is a great call. And again, I like playing him in cash, not just MME. He's going to be low owned. On the expensive side, obviously, Lamar, it's really remarkable. His last 4 games, 30.6 points per game, 13 touchdowns. And what I really like about this matchup with Denver is QBs you wouldn't expect have ran very well for him, like Geno, Gardner Minshew, Spencer Rattler, 86 rushing yards and a touchdown. The shocking one, Joe Flacco had 22 rushing yards on 3 carries versus Denver team. So if they're doing that, Lamar's going to get some with the rushing. He's averaging over 8 points per game on DK just in rushing alone. Jalen Hurts is the other expensive guy I really like, really having a quiet, stellar season, 22.5 points per game on DK, but it's actually 25 points per game in the games that him and A.J. Brown play together. Obviously, Brown is there. The team goes from averaging 17.3 points per game in games Brown doesn't play to right at 30 points per game in the game that A.J. Brown does play. And this Jags team, they're just awful. They rank 31st versus QBs. The trio of Drake May, Caleb Williams, and Josh Allen's rush for 118 yards versus the Jags. Again, we know that Jalen Hurts is going to be able to run. But the big thing, the Jags run man defense, literally, I think it's the top 3 rate in the NFL. And A.J. Brown is just out of this world versus man defenses. That means he's going to be obviously looked up a lot. So whether you play Hurts naked or you stack him with Brown, that's a great combo. The last name I want to give you, and it pains me, but it's Dak Prescott, 6,300 versus my Atlanta Falcons. He's coming off, I know, really bad starts. Scored like 20 and 8 points. That's not good. But this Falcons defense, when it comes to sacks and pass rushes, they are the 4th worst since 2000, this century, in getting pressure and sacks. They have 6 sacks through their first 8 games. The teams Dallas have played this year have an average of 22.5 sacks. Every single team they've played has 18 or more sacks. So he's been facing consistent pressure. He proved in the Pittsburgh game, where Pittsburgh had a lot of their pass rushers missing or banged up to injuries, that when he has time, he's still really good. He threw for 352 yards and 2 scores. He scored 22 points. I'm very worried that's what's going to happen in this game versus the Falcons, where he's going to have all day to throw it to Lamb, to throw it to Ferguson, to throw it to Tolbert, to throw it to Dottle, like you name it. And Dak at 6,300 could become a real value. But those are really the 4 QBs. I'm leaning in, though, to a lot of Hurts. And the Herbert call is just so good because you're the only other person I've heard this entire week saying anything about Justin Herbert, when it's so disrespectful how cheap he's been, when he's been really good. And there's a lot of signs showing the Chargers are becoming more of a pass-happy offense.
No doubt. And it's a great thing. I've always, like I said when I was in my earlier spiel, this kid is a fantastic quarterback, and it's disrespectful that he's not talked about, in those higher end quarterback circles. But more than likely, he's going to make people look silly, the ones who faded him or said, no. During the course of the week, it's just social media. It's just, you know what it is. It's a lot of toxic folks. But someone, the power rankings are always team power rankings are always such a big deal. Let's say, Monday night or even Tuesday after the previous week has concluded. And I saw one man, I'll have to credit him later on, because I don't know where I would find it or look it up, but he put the Chargers like 6th or 7th overall in the NFL, and that's okay, because it's a power rankings. It's what happened leading up to that and what you think is going to happen in the future in terms of your power rankings, and took some big time stones. And I know he got hammered, but he stuck by his guns. So it is what it is. When we look at the running back position this week, as you said, it's
so many good plays.
Yes, so many good plays at cheap price tags, and you can't. I mean, I built probably, I only build maybe like a handful of lineups, far cry from my olden days where I'd build 500 by hand with a pen and a piece of paper. And I do that just a tinier, I'm build like 20, 25 by hand. But when you look at the running backs that are available, you said Chestnut, McNichols, Miles Sanders in Carolina. He's probably available on waiver wires too. If anybody's in a pinch, if it's somewhat competitive, he's probably already gone, but just go double check that stuff and see what you can do in seasonal formats. I wrote down Jonathan Brooks, Carolina's rookie. I wrote down Ray Davis, Buffalo's rookie, but I lined them out because in favor of a guy like Chestnut or McNichols. Alexander Mattinson is at the top of the bottom of the barrel notes because Vegas is at Cincinnati, 15 to 16 carries, 60 yards, somewhere around there. And it's, all summer, Zamir White is the man. He's going to be
that was partly me. I was wrong. I'm sorry, everybody.
Oh, it's all good. I had no idea, but he has done. I think it's been a mix of. He did get hurt as well, but that had nothing to do with this awful start to the season. But to me, Mattinson is getting a ton of work in Cincinnati, which they're going in the opposite direction, right? I'm not saying the Vegas is on the fast track to anything, but Cincinnati themselves, a football team, you want to go up and win and climb the hill. They're rolling, tumbling down it. And it stinks because Joe Burrow, are they wasting Joe Burrow? Conversation for another time. Give me Mattinson, given his price tag 5.9 on FanDuel, only 5.7 on DK. Zach Moss is in play to me as well in that same game.
I'm sorry, they rolled him out. Sorry,
Zach
that was
Moss.
Another one that, yep. Sorry.
So then it's going to be Chase Brown by $1 million, but his price tag probably falls just shy, a little bit too much from bottom of the barrel. I love Austin Eckler this week. Washington is playing the Giants. Giants are around 17th overall against opposing wide receivers. And now with Brian B. Rob Jr. not active, Austin Eckler is going to see probably 70% of the offensive snaps at running back, and then McNichols will work his way in. I see no problem with a Eckler McNichols 1-2 punch in one of those big time 150 max dollar GPPs this week. Eckler 5.5 on FanDuel, 5.3 on DK, and the receptions alone, he'll return value. I don't think there's at no risk of a goose egg or really stomping your line out, given how much he is. And I had, at 7-8 carries for 35 to 40 yards, 3 to 4 receptions for another 25 to 30 yards. And now that could be a floor projection. We're looking at over double digit targets and touches, right? Do we get to that, 15 to 18 or 18 to 20 total targets and touches? Could be. And the price tags are just phenomenal across the board. I mentioned Antonio Gibson briefly, Zach Charbonnet briefly, but I wanted to touch on a guy like Roschon Johnson, right? The Chicago Bears go to Arizona. Arizona's 29th overall against opposing running backs, and we're coming into week 9, and fingers crossed Swift has been happy and healthy, and that's great. Wish him nothing but the best. He hasn't been a Lion for quite some time, but Roschon Johnson is getting some run, and I've always found him to be, a fantastic running back. Khalil Herbert's still there, and he was able to shine last year and the year before in spots. But Roschon Johnson will be getting touches, and he's only 4.9 on DK, 5.3 on FanDuel. The idea of Roschon is one leg of the anytime touchdown parlay. Jamal Williams is the second. He went to New Orleans and hasn't done dick, excuse my language, and you hate to see it, but New Orleans is in Carolina. Carolina's 32nd overall against opposing running backs. You know the next sentence. We've done this a million times. There's only 32 teams in the league. 5.2 on FanDuel, 4,000 on DK. You cannot trust him. As I mentioned, Austin Eckler is of no point. Will he goose egg your lineup or screw it? Jamal Williams could absolutely do that. But what if New Orleans gets up a score or two? Derek Carr's back. They were rolling and cruising at the beginning of the season when Carr was their quarterback, and now Jamal Williams. There has to come a point where he's going to score more than one touchdown in 2 seasons, or 2 touchdowns, something like that. Miles Sanders, as I mentioned, in that same game is really lighting it up for me in my brain. Sanders, 5.1 on FanDuel, 4.5 on DK. The next 2 are probably the ebb and flow of a game, right? I see, Philadelphia absolutely destroying Jacksonville. They're in Philadelphia. Kenny Gainwell is a guy who there's going to be some targets and touches there. $5,000 on FanDuel, only 4.2 on DK. And as it stands, right, Saquon Barkley is an lights out, stone cold stud, slam dunk. Put him in your lineup. That'd be fantastic. And then double down with Kenny Gainwell in a game where, when they showed Saquon on the sideline a few weeks ago, I don't care about my game career, high score of points. Let the kids eat. Kenny Gainwell will eat this afternoon, so let that run. And even Blake Corum, he's slowly started to take on more targets and touches for the Rams. They're in Seattle. Seattle's 27th overall, which I have this game to be fantastic from start to finish. Just an absolute battle in the NFC West for the Rams and Seattle. Blake Corum, 4.4 on DK, 4.7 on FanDuel. So the idea of Roschon Johnson, Kenny Gainwell, and Blake Corum in the same lineup is absolutely could be a disaster. But you're able to put in any 3 wide receivers you want, the 3 most expensive guys. You can play Matt. You don't even, how fun it is to just live life, go shopping or to play DFS when money is of no concern. You get giddy. You feel like a little kid again. And picking 2 of those, 4 running backs that I mentioned, or what Keith's about to say, really opens things up. You can get a stone cold stud tight end, Jamar Chase, Jefferson, whoever else you want at wide receiver, but you're taking a chance with the running backs. And I think that's my approach this afternoon. Just absolutely punt at 2, maybe 3 running backs. And if I fall, I fall. If I look silly, I look silly. But it's the thought that counts sometimes, Keith. So as we stand, it's 12:25 Eastern time. We're about 35 minutes away from everything locking and no turning back after that. Where are you going with running backs? I want to hear how your brain and gears are turning on this one.
Sure. So again, like this week, you can make an argument for a lot of guys. Like if you want to go with Barkley, totally get that. James Cook, great matchup versus Miami. I get that. DeAndre Swift, like there's a ton of Tony Pollard now that he is active versus New England. Like there's a lot of really good options. I've kind of circled to 4 guys, Kyron Williams being the first. It's just the volume of the guys that are expensive. He gets the most volume, 19 or more carries, 5 straight games, 28 red zone touches in that span, 8 touchdowns. Again, just over the last 5 games. The big thing, though, he saw 6 red zone touches last week, which was the second highest he's had all season. The reason that's important is Puka and Kupp are back. And you may think, well, Puka and Kupp are back, that's going to take away from Kyron. It's actually the opposite. They're going to be in the red zone more, giving him more opportunities to score touchdowns. So I just think it increases his ceiling. This is a game Seattle will be without DK Metcalf and Noah Fant. That makes it more likely it's a lower scoring game, something where the Rams, if they get up, because every game is important for the Rams moving forward because their win-loss record in the division and playoff, and they're going to lean on the run. And that means they're going to probably lean on Kyron. Seattle's 27th on DK versus running backs, but their last 5 games, they are getting cooked. 688 rushing yards allowed in their last 5 and 6 touchdowns to opposing RBs. So Kyron is the 8K and above guy. Like Bijan, I feel really confident about this. I typically don't give Falcons because I'm a Falcons fan. I don't want to be viewed as a homer, but he is just cooking right now. And then on top of that, he's a decent play cash or MME. Right now he is projected to be the 10th most owned running back at I think it's 7-8%, which is not too bad even for bigger ones. This is about Dallas, who just can't stop the run. 150 yards per game, almost 5 yards per carry. And then Bijan is finally being utilized the way Falcons fans like myself have been begging the Atlanta Falcons to do since they've got him. Over his last 3 games, he's actually had 3.6 more carries per than he did earlier in the season. He's averaging basically right at an extra reception per. So you're talking about almost 5 extra touches every game. That's been good because he's averaging over 25 points per game on DK in that 3-game sample. Scored at least 23 points in each one of them, which is huge. He's accounted for 47% of his rushing yards in just those 3 games compared to the previous 5, 38% of his receiving compared to the previous 5. And he scored a touchdown now in 3 of the last 4. And 3 of his last 4 touchdowns on the season have came in basically those last 3 games. So again, great matchup. And again, I'm worried about Dallas being able to move the ball, throw. A good thing for Atlanta to do would just be run it. And another example of if you want to double stack running backs, I don't hate Bijan and Algier this week either because Algier's 4,900 on DK. Devin Achane is probably my most owned running back with the other guy I'm going to talk about in just a second, but he's had 2 full games with Tua this year. He's got 121 rushing yards in those, 13 receptions, 126 yards. So 200 basically 50 yards, 2 touchdowns, 13 receptions, 50 points. And then we talked about this last week with him that going back to last year, when he plays with Tua and gets 10 rush attempts, he's averaging over 26 points per game. Guess what he did last week? He scored 26 points with 10 rush attempts playing with Tua starting. The Bills really struggle. I mean, they allow the most receptions to running backs in the NFL, over 6 per. What is Achane's most, best quality? Pass catching back. They also allow the most receiving yards to running backs in the NFL at over 54 per. Again, Achane, that's his strength. And if you look back to their first matchup, Tua went out early, and he still had 167 total yards, scored almost a 30-burger on DK versus them. But the guy that's in the most of my lineups, he's probably going to be high owned. We don't really know because of the news that Zach Moss is out coming late. But Chase Brown at 5,900, I mean, he's going to see the largest workload of the season. We know that. Over his last 5, he's seen at least 12 touches, 15 total per, scored an average of 14.5 points on DK with 5 touchdowns. And he's done that versus really good run defense. I mean, he scored 4 points or more on DK in 3 of his last 4, again, despite facing defenses that rank in the top 12 versus the run. And his opponent this week, the Raiders, they suck. They're one of 6 teams who've allowed 1,000 yards on the ground, 10-plus touchdowns, and over 4.5 yards per carry. We know T. Higgins is out. The Bengals, very similar to the Rams, are in a situation where every game is important. They have to win basically every game moving forward if they still want to have playoff aspirations, which I know the Joe Burrow-led Bengals do. I think that means they lean on Chase Brown if they get a lead. Obviously, Jamar Chase, Yoshi, those guys, they'll do their work, but I just think they're going to have a lot of Chase Brown. I've never even heard of their backup. I looked it up this morning. Never heard of the guy. I think you're going to see a lot of Chase Brown. So if you're a Chase Brown owner, this is your week. The other guy I just want to mention really quickly is Tyron Tracy at 5,500. Washington, they still give up a lot of plays on the ground, and they still give up a lot of receptions to running backs. And at 5,500, he's the other guy that if you're looking to save money to, potentially get one of these stud wide receivers or QBs in your lineup, I have no hesitation about putting him in. With his workload the last 2 weeks, even with Devin Singletary cleared and us being told it was going to be a 50-50 split, because that was not the case.
Yeah, and that's a lot to digest and a lot to take in. And that, the idea of, stacking up Cincinnati, just their team in general. It's that old ideology where someone will say, well, I want to use, Chase Brown and Jamar Chase, but I don't think they're going to play much in the second half. Let's say something silly like that. They're going to be blowing out the opposing team. It's like, how do you think they got to the blowout phase of the game to begin with? Yep. And I didn't look it up just by memory. I believe Cincinnati's backup to Chase is like Travion Williams, something along those lines.
Yep.
And the only reason I know that is because I believe he was a running back at Ohio State and split early. He went into the draft early. I mean, I could be completely wrong off my rocker, but there was
that's who I know that's who it is. Cause I looked him up because I was like, who is their backup just in case? And, try to pick him up, say in these deeper leagues.
I think there was a brief moment in time where he was, talked about it for the Heisman Trophy and Heisman Trophy circles, like before his whatever sophomore or junior, like the season prior to him playing and then splitting. So he's a professional running back, obviously, but I'm all set with that. When we look at the wide receivers, again, a lot of just nonsense to take in. So what's our move then? Well, if there's a lot of nonsense, let's look at the second and third string guys. Then you work your way back. Who's the quarterback throwing these guys the ball? What's the opposing defense looking like? What's their DVP? What's their price tag? In a perfect world, you could just type that sentence into a computer and it would spit out yes or no, and this is what it's going to be. Instead, you come here at Fantasy Six Pack and we just do it for you. We'll talk it out on the fly and look like weirdos most of the time. When I started to hone in on wide receivers and even the running backs, right? There was something to me about Carolina and the New Orleans game. On paper, it looks just to be awful miserable given the teams, how they both played. But there's a lot to like from a DFS standpoint, and it's all based on DVP. When you look at the rookie Xavier Legette, Carolina's wide receiver, they're playing New Orleans, the Saints 26th overall against opposing wide receivers, 5.7 on FanDuel, 5.3 on DK. He's seeing, targets and touches, and people have, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that has said that, but you look at like a guy like Xavier Legette and you think, well, is he better than Ladd McConkey? Is he better than Brian Thomas in Jacksonville? Well, no, he's not. But what separates, let's say, Brian Thomas from Xavier? It's the volume, it's the target and the touches, and the quarterback you have throwing the football in Jacksonville, love him or hate him, he's of higher, blue chip prospectness, let's say, than Andy Dalton. I mean, you could argue that what's his name, Bryce Young and Trevor Lawrence at one time when they were in school were 1A and 1B, and now that the difference between them is ridiculous. But when you look at Xavier Legette, he's just absolutely capitalizing on the targets that he's getting. Been inconsistent, but when he sees the work, everything is coming up roses. Last week, he against the Broncos, 4 catches for 34 yards and a score. That's more so of a punt tight end line that we would hope for, right? 3 or 4 catches, 30 yards and a score, but he could be there's a connection starting to build in my mind with Bryce Young. I don't, as of right now, maybe someone out there in fantasy land can double check. Last I looked, Bryce Young was going to be the starting quarterback for Carolina, which I like for a guy like Legette, because he could be, just it could all be channeled even more, the connection between Legette and Bryce Young. The idea of Darius Slayton, right, playing the Giants are, playing Washington. And even in the single game slate video last time out, I mentioned Daniel Jones. Now he's gone. I believe he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 4 of the last Giants last 5 games, something silly like that. I mean, I'm not saying to start Daniel Jones, but Slayton had a fantastic, yardage game last week, double the amount of targets, Neighbors had double the amount of targets, but Slayton is still running those intermediate routes, and every once in a while he'll split. I have Darius Slayton, 6-7 targets, 4 or 5 receptions, 45 to 50 yards, and given his price tag on DK, at least 4.8 on DK, it makes for a wonderful, just like a last minute kind of addition in your lineups. I absolutely love as well. If I can just transitioning quick, as best as I can, given the fact that it's 12:36 now. The other rookie, Rome Odunze in Chicago, speaking of chemistry with a rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, that is happening as well. When you look at what Chicago did or didn't do last week, it was kind of tough sledding because I believe Caleb only had like 190 yards, something like that, or even less than. But Rome has been somewhat consistent, although it's been below average consistent. That you still got to, chalk up that line of 40 yards, and 41 yards receiving over the last 3 games. And last week, the 41 yards led to all the Bears, pass catchers. That just shows you what a tough game it was in Washington. And we know how the game ended there. But Rome will be roaming around the field a little bit more. I have him around 55 to 60 yards on 4 to 5 receptions, plus a gadget player too. And that at any given time, Keenan Allen could be, out of the get, take himself out of the game or turn over funny or, roll an ankle, God forbid. But we know that there is, there's a soft tissue injury with him. And as we go down, I'll just hit these kind of lightning speed here. Trey Tucker, the Vegas Raiders are playing in Cincinnati, 5-5 on FanDuel, 4-3 on DK. Kevontae Turpin, the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, they're in Atlanta. You'll have your eyes on that one. 5-4 on FanDuel, 3-7 on DK. Alec Pierce still leads the league in yards per reception, 24.4, something like that, which is nuts. And with Flacco under center, all those Indianapolis Colts wide receivers are in play, specifically Josh Downs. How many start-sit questions have we seen? Or you even, Keith? Is it Hunt, or excuse me, is it Downs or Pittman, Downs or whatever? It's going to be Downs if Flacco is the quarterback. Jalen Coker, the rookie, Carolina rookie. So realistically, both Carolina rookie wide receivers, Leggett and Coker, put them in the same lineup and see what we get against an iffy New Orleans Saints secondary. And Troy Franklin, kind of we missed the boat on him a few weeks ago. I did, at least. I mentioned him last week, didn't do much. So maybe it's just one of those weeks where you can never get it right. So I'm just going to stay the course until he hits. And then when he hits, can say, all right, I got over the schneid, and then I got over the schneid, and then I can just leave it be. Where are you going at with wide receivers this week?
Again, I think it's a tough week at wide receiver because of just, like Lamb is so expensive. I do think that if you can find a way to get him into your cash lineup, you should. It's just at what expense, right? With him being 8,800, it's going to limit like the QB you play. Like, to me, then you kind of have to play Dak. Like, if you're going to play Lamb, you have to play Dak. And that's the way I've done it. Like, the only lineups that I'm playing Lamb in are the ones that I, convince myself Dak at 6,300 is the way to go at QB. The expensive wide receiver I have in the most lineups is by far A.J. Brown, 8,200 versus Jacksonville. He is, as the song used to say, a man eater, right? Like, I mean, this is all this dude does. And Jacksonville runs man at one of the highest rates in the NFL. Brown versus man, 36% target rate, which that is very good. But what's really impressive, he is seeing 3.55 fantasy points per target versus man defense. Like, people, that is outrageous. That means literally every time he sees a target, that's basically 3 points for the week in PPR formats, 3.5 points. And then he's been so good this year. He scored a touchdown in 3 of 4. He's had 84 yards or more in every game this season. Again, 4-4. Terry McLaurin with the Robinson news has become somebody that I have in I'm sorry, that's what I'm usually looking down. That's what I'm doing, is adjusting my DraftKings lineups. But Terry McLaurin at 7,100 now. He's very low projected ownership, 3.7%. This guy, 98 receiving yards or more in 4-6, 18.2 points or more in 5 of 7. And I just think with Robinson out, they're going to need him to play a bigger role to keep moving the ball. And honestly, a pretty good Giants defense. He's averaging 2 points per target versus man and zone. So he's good either way. Seen 5 red zone targets the last 5, so he's involved there. And if you look in recent weeks, you can get at this Giants team. Like last week, Pickens and Van Jefferson, 136 yards combined on 10 targets. The week before, A.J. Brown, just 5 targets, 89 yards and a touchdown. Chris Olave, somebody I really want to mention, 6,100 versus Carolina. Carolina is just so bad. Number 1 wide receivers here recently. Sutton last week, 8 for 111. McLaurin, 6 for 98. Drake London, 6 for 74 and a touchdown. DJ Moore, 5 for 105, 2 touchdowns. Chase, 3 for 85 and a touchdown. And without Shaheed, like with him done for the year, we saw last week what's going to happen with Olave in that passing game. 14 targets in his first game since Shaheed has been out. So you're getting him versus that awful Carolina. Like, I love that, real value. And then my 2 favorite plays this week in cash are cheaper wide receivers. Ladd McConkey, 5,600. Again, I mentioned earlier, the Browns, without their best corner, Ward, he's out with a concussion. And Herbert's been really good. They're throwing it a lot, right? Like 35 pass attempts per game in the last 3 games. Passing a lot on first down. And Ladd, 6 or more targets in 5 straight games, 4 more receptions in 4 straight. And then those numbers for Ladd versus man, like a little A.J. Brownish, like his target rate versus man, 36.4%. So every time the Chargers see man, he's getting the ball 36% of the time, and he's 9th in fantasy points per target versus man. Again, just showing how good A.J. Brown is versus man. Watch play. He's 2.07, which is 9th among wide receivers. Again, A.J. Brown, 3.5 points every time. And then Jalen Coker for the Panthers. He has one of the best. He's the only guy in the top 10 cornerback wide receiver matchups per PFF that is anywhere near in this price range. He's 3,600. To me, yes, he is the Cedric Tillman of this week, because just like I was all in on Cedric Tillman, you remember last week, and I was like, you got to play him. It's just he's going to see volume, et cetera, et cetera. Same deal here. Deontay Johnson, remember, was out last week, and then Tillman saw a season high in snaps, targets, fantasy points. Well, then they traded Deontay Johnson, which is, again, very similar to with Tillman, where the week before, right, he saw that big uptick, and then Watson got hurt. He saw a bunch of targets on the last drive of Winston. It equated the next week. It's the same deal with Coker. And then on top of that, he's like actually started to be a decent young wide receiver. 14 targets over his last 4, 12 receptions, 186 yards and a touchdown. And the Saints ranked 5th in most yards allowed to wide receiver and 10th in yards per reception. And then finally, I do want to mention Cedric Tillman again, who's 4,200, who I know the Chargers, by the metrics, they look very good versus the pass. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit and get a little more data, because their first 3 games were versus Bo Nix in his first career start, Jacoby Brissett, and then the duo of Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle. And then, oh, by the way, in their 4th game, Rashee Rice got hurt on the Chiefs' first drive. So that's their first 4 games facing passing offenses. So let's see a little bit more evidence. And Tillman's volume for a guy 4,200 is outrageous. He's seen 21 targets the last 2 weeks. He's seen 11 targets from Jameis Winston and just basically 1 full game and 1 drive from the previous. I do think he's worth putting in cash game lineups as well. So Coker, him, and then Parker Washington is the other guy in that cheap range that you can stick into cash because of the volume with all the injuries, and he's going to see the underneath stuff for the Jaguars.
Yeah, and it's that game could wind up being on the nasty side for Jacksonville. Wind up. I'm almost certain that it winds up nasty.
I'd be shocked. I'm with you. Like, I think Philly's starting to look pretty good. Like, nobody really wants to talk about Philly. Looks like they're a team that is starting to ascend offensively, defensively, and the Jags, as we know, are going the other way.
Yeah, and it stinks because it's, it's the ebb and flow of football. It's like, feels like just last season, Jacksonville was in the playoffs in winning home playoff games. And I mean, it stinks. I can't put my finger on it. And that's why I'm not a professional football GM, just some schlub.
I don't think they can put their finger on it either, though. And that's why there's so many GMs.
That's what is scary. Absolutely. And there was a question asked about, I would say about 15 minutes ago, would we start Ramondre over Monty? No. The Smitty is worried about the weather in Green Bay. The reason you're worried about the weather is the reason you should be absolutely overjoyed to play Monty. That just I'll tone down the Lions homerism, but Fantasy Six Pack comment 2 minutes after the question was asked, Monty all day.
Absolutely.
And that
he still scores a touchdown every game. I know his carries have been slightly down because Gibbs has been so good. You have to give the Gibbs ball more, but he's still getting most of the red zone touches and scores a touchdown every game. To me in fantasy, you can't ask for something more than that on a really good offense. By the way, it's been scoring a gazillion points.
Yeah, the offensive line is awesome. And come to find out, a few games ago, Demont, hurt his ankle. It was nothing crazy, but then,
that would make sense then why he's been seeing a little less carries too.
Yeah, it done on purpose, I'd imagine. A little bit of rest, and we have Jamar Gibbs can tote the ball,
most electric guy in the NFL. Yeah,
so you can have an active rest day even on game day and go from there. When we look at the tight end position, again, nasty as can be in my book. As I'm looking up, just price tags for like the higher price tight ends. Brock Bowers is 7.7 on FanDuel. There, Vegas is in Cincinnati. That's kind of a slam dunk play, especially if the quarterback is who we think. Who the heck's going to be starting at quarterback for Vegas? It's Carr.
It's
no.
You said for Vegas,
that's
Minshew
New Orleans.
start.
Yeah, Minshew.
Or New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans is Carr and Minshew's in Vegas.
Yeah, I had it confused for a minute because they're both in bottom of the barrel.
And they're both
are so stupidly tiny. But maybe Minshew will be okay because there's no. He can make throw an interception or make a bad play, and he's not looking over his shoulder like they're going to get.
Well, they'll throw it more with Minshew. Like the one thing with O'Connell was they really were limited. I'm not saying Minshew's a lot better, like as a quarterback, but they have more trust in Minshew to actually push it down the field, which they did not have with O'Connell. And Myers is back healthy. Like the Raiders actually have some decent pass catchers for a team that traded Devontae Adams.
Yeah, and that gunslinger mentality is we placed on Minshew all the years. So as I was saying, Brock Bowers with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, we know he's going to get his. Laporta, Ingram, all these higher priced guys are fantastic. I have a question. I'll just ask it out loud and then move on. And if anybody in the comments wants to answer, that'd be fantastic. Taysom Hill looks to be active today, and New Orleans is in Carolina. Carolina again dead last against tight ends. They're dead last against what else? Wide receivers or running backs.
The running backs is the big deal.
And tight ends. So, I mean, Taysom Hill is a hybrid of both. So you'd like to think that if they're dead last against RBs and tight ends, Taysom Hill is the slam dunk play in DFS formats. And he's 5'9" on FanDuel, a little higher. He's
dirt cheap on DK though, bro. Dirt cheap, 3,600.
Yeah, that's
3,800. Excuse me, 3,800.
Got to be a slam dunk then, right? For given what he can do. Cole Kmet is been tossed around in some of my lineups. However, when it comes to tight ends, especially bottom of the barrel and GPPs, I'd like to spend 4.9 or less. When you look at Cole Kmet, he's right there. He's 5.2 on FanDuel, only 4.4 on DK, Chicago in Arizona. And as I mentioned, 10, 15 minutes ago about Rome Odunze or Roshan Johnson here, I think last week and what Caleb did or did not do, I think that is going to be a distant memory when we look for today, because Arizona is a little bit more free in terms of what they can do defensively, and they're 16th overall against opposing tight ends. And like a Buda Baker, let's say, he's got his work cut out for him, where Cole Kmet might fall through the cracks in that little intermediate stuff, or that's lame buzzword, a safety blanket. He's a Bubba, or Caleb Williams is absolutely in play. Noah Fant, come to find out, he is inactive. He was mentioned in bottom of the barrel. Just want to say that. The idea of Colby Parkinson gets me going as well because of the matchup. The Rams are in Seattle. It's a divisional game. The Rams they're starting to ascend in a way. What if they did the same thing last year and they ripped off 5-6 wins in a row, made the playoffs, bounced in the wild card round, but they still had it moving. So the idea of Colby Parkinson, while Higbee is still, working his way back from tearing up his knee. Who knows when we see him? But Parkinson, $5,000 on FanDuel, beautifully priced at 3.7 on DK with Stafford. If you want to go that route, have at it. I mentioned Will Dissly, and there's something about both of the Denver Broncos tight ends, and that's just a testament to not only the offense but the quarterback play, that that Bo Nix and Denver can support multiple option pass catchers in the offensive side of things. I would prefer Troutman, who broke out last week. Does he do that in back-to-back weeks? It's unlikely, but just in case. He's only 4-4 on FanDuel, $3,000 on DK in Baltimore, 25th overall against opposing tight ends. And if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Just because the opposing team's offense is good doesn't mean you're going to fade, the offense going against him. It should be offense v defense and vice versa here. But Baltimore should be able to hang some points quickly and in a hurry. Therefore, Denver might see an extra possession or two, or might see, 4 to 5 extra minutes on offense with the snap. So Lucas Krull is in play as well, 4-7 on FanDuel, only 2-7 on DK. So if you're going to do the punt route, right, Adam Troutman is your play, and you can just stack up AJ Brown. You can toss in Ladd McConkey and even Saquon at running back, and then just carefully slice and dice where else you put it. Keith, where are you going for tight end? Anything of note?
Laporta, who ironically I saw somebody was asking about, like, they're worried about it. I get it, but this is like the Laporta week. Okay. Last week we saw it. I was on him as well because Jameson's out. It's the whole reason I was down on Laporta all summer was not because Laporta's a great tight end. It's just the Lions have so many weapons. We saw the emergence of Gibbs and, Jameson Williams, and obviously they got St. Brown. To, like, how much are they going to target him? Well, last week with Williams being out, saw a season high in targets, saw a season high in red zone targets, scored season high in receptions, fantasy points. Green Bay is 24th versus tight ends on DK, but it's worse than that because, like, you look, they played actually a bad set of tight ends. When they played decent ones, Trey McBride, 8 for 90. Evan Ingram last week, 4 for 40 and a touchdown. Colby Parkinson got like 13 targets, had 7 for 52. And I think that, this, again, a team that started the season facing Minnesota, Indy, and Tennessee. Name like 2 of their tight ends on any of those squads. You can't. Taysom Hill, 100%. This is the guy that's in a majority of my cash lineups, 3,800. Like, the deal is, so I meant to ask you, or say too, because you're asking about injury. Jamal Williams is now out as well. So now basically it's Kamara, and then who's going to be their other back? It's going to be Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
the last time we saw Taysom Hill was against Atlanta in the first half. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. By the way, he had all 3 of the goal line carries in that game in the first half. He got injured. He came back last week, saw 4 targets, caught 2 passes. More importantly, 4 carries for 20 yards. But that was a game they were down, and it was over early. The Carolina game, they should be competitive or up. What does that mean? Heavy dose. Like, I would be shocked if he doesn't get 5-10 rush attempts. I'd be shocked if he doesn't get at least 1 or 2 goal line opportunities. And then he's also going to be involved a little bit in the passing game. I think he is a home run play this week at 3,800 on DK. Like, he's in almost all of my DraftKings lineups. And then outside of that, like, you could talk me into Mike Gesicki. Like, I think he's a good value because when T. Higgins hasn't played, he's actually seen a good bit of volume. I do like both of the tight ends in the Falcons-Cowboys matchup. Kyle Pitts has been playing well. Jake Ferguson, you saw with Kate Otten last week, the Falcons have issues covering tight ends. But overall, it's like, for me, it's either Taysom Hill or Laporta because I just think that Detroit knows that the best way to beat Green Bay is to smash them in the mouth. And I expect them to do that with Gibbs and Montgomery. It's going to open up play action, and Laporta has been so good in play action in the year and a half there in Detroit that I think he has a big game against a team that can't really cover tight ends.
Yeah, and this is the first time all season that I'm excited, but I'm actually nervous as well for the Lions to play a game, if I may have a moment of homerism.
Of course.
Because, when they played Minnesota, I was excited, but I wasn't really nervous. And I think I know what the difference is when the Lions play, Minnesota or Chicago and Green Bay is maybe I'm not a smart man in some sense, but I've always respected the Green Bay Packers and their organization and how it runs, even their fans to a certain extent. And you say, most people, especially on social media, the team's fans are an extension of how other folks feel about them. In Minnesota, And Chicago fans are most times way out in left field. There's a handful that have their wits about them, but there was a time when even the Bears were we're getting Max Crosby first, and then we're gonna get Tom Brady's gonna come back and be our quarterback, and Caleb's gonna. I mean, it's all just been crazy stuff. But it's in Green Bay too. That's what's tough, and it's still those old little nugget memories. Core memories of absolutely getting blown out every time they've played in Green Bay. Again, that was pre-Dan and Brad era, and it's going to be a great game. But I'm nervous and I'm excited for that, and we shall see. Before we split, Keith, anything last minute you want to touch on personally, professionally? We have around 4 to 5 minutes before everything locks.
Just that I need the Falcons to win this game. I'm still right about the Jalen Carter over Bijan pick due to the fact that, again, the 4th worst pass rush this century. Like, I love Bijan. We needed that, like, stud up front, and they passed on him. They passed on Penix. But I do want them to win. I want them to make the playoffs. It's been a long time for a fan base that's been through some shit. 2016 Super Bowl. So, it is what it is. And to the person, the Smitty, that, the guy fan Six Pack was helping you out, I agreed with his answers. Trust your gut, though. Like, I see you saying you just don't want to have 2 players in a bad weather game. Don't be afraid to trust your gut. Like, if that's your gut, you just gotta live with the consequences. And that's usually how I make these picks, is like, can I live with putting this player in and sitting this one? Because sometimes you can, guy just has a bad game. It is what it is. If you go with the risky side and then it backfires, that's when, for me, it's harder to live with.
Yeah, that's it. I had a friend ask me, some starter sit stuff, and it was, the 2 of the guys play today and one of them plays Monday. I said, what can you stomach? If you start the Monday Night Football guy, you're going to have to, be patient, tonight and today. And then when Monday comes around, you're going to have, what can you stomach? What can you live with? If anybody has a pen and a piece of paper, I have a fantastic anytime touchdown parlay. I'll be quick with it. You can write this down. Bijan Robinson, your boy, anytime touchdown, high end play. Jamar Chase, anytime touchdown, high end play. It did have Brian Robinson Jr. in there. We'll get rid of him, but we'll just add in Austin Eckler. Say if Brian Robinson was going to score a touchdown and he's not playing, why wouldn't Austin Eckler score that in his place? Alvin Kamara, anytime touchdown. Jamar Gibbs, anytime touchdown. And Kyron Williams, who is a slam dunk, anytime touchdown parlay. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's 6 guys. So the odds should be heavily in your favor. And if you want to use that as your template and kind of mix and match elsewhere, have at it. I wish everybody the best of luck. It is already the beginning of November. As we said at the beginning of the show, it is week 9 already. November is here. Before we know it, Thanksgiving will be here, and all that entails. And then Christmas. That come to find out, we get a Christmas Day game on that day. So we're going to be here.
They're getting a little messed up. But
we're going to be here. We're going to be hanging. How dare you play football on the day of Jesus's birth? I believe it's
the Wednesday deal I have an issue with. It's like these guys are already getting injured at a crazy rate. You're going to play Sunday and then play on Wednesday. That seems a little intense.
That is nuts and intense. As George Kittle says, it's like every Sunday you're in a car accident. So you got to that Monday or Tuesday, you got to go to you actually have to go and lift weights, or your shit's going to lock up on you, and you got to, get your nutrients in. So 1 minute before lock, hopefully everybody is where they should be. Double check what Keith has going on in his article. Double check bottom of the barrel. It's good all day, right? There is a 4 p.m. set of games, and hang tight a couple hours. Well, I'll get you a Sunday Night Football video, and we're off and rolling. So let's do this all over again next Sunday. Be good, be safe. Happy week 9. May all your parlays hit. Bye-bye.